Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening, and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan, and YouTube just sent me running upstairs for my Android phone. Because YouTube stopped letting me do two-factor authentication on my iPhone for no rhyme or reason. So if any of you have a brand manager with YouTube, let them know it's completely unacceptable that they stopped allowing two-factor authentication on iPhone. Also let them know it's completely unacceptable that they're not letting the chat load for someone who has a small channel. So, I don't know who's in the chat. Because now that I've authenticated to YouTube that yes, it is me, I'm still having trouble getting the chat to come up. So, if you will bear with me one moment. In fact, actually the YouTube website seems to be... probably YouTube seeing if it's me trying to change settings. Because their website is being mean tonight. I still have no chat. So I could be talking to myself right now. No, it's had nothing to do with YouTube. Okay. Alright, well, let's see here. Fine. Do I have the YouTube app on my Android phone? No, I don't. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Yes, I do, but I'm probably not signed into YouTube on it. Alright, this is not a sustainable solution. But at least it'll let me see the chat. Maybe. No. Because I don't have the YouTube Studio app. Okay, hold please. Alright, so what happens if I close YouTube and reopen YouTube in Firefox? Or are they punishing me for not using Chrome? Probably. For some reason, I cannot see the chat in OBS. I have yet to be able to bring up the control room for this live stream. I don't have YouTube Studio on my Android phone. Of course, I could pull the iPhone out of my pocket, but I would really like to bring this up in some big window. Oh, yes, and I have people waiting for me in the chat. Yay. I'm not actually talking to myself. All right, now, who do I have in the chat? Finally, I've got Eric's Edge, Frank S., Jeremy's Vintage Hillbilly Shack, Joe's Computer Museum, Sorcerer Stan, Retro Techie, and yes, go subscribe to Retro Techie's channel, because he'll just ask anyways. So just go do it. All right. So now, I don't know why the chat didn't come up in OBS, so, well, whatever. All right. So what am I doing tonight? I have a couple power supplies. I'm going to walk you through how I would come up with capacitor lists for those power supplies. I am going to do something so passé, and that is take notes. Yes, I am not going to try to use technology. Because apparently, tonight is not my night for technology, as YouTube proved by wanting me to verify it was me just to see the chat. And then not refreshing the site. Alright. Of course, that'll require me to find the pen or paper that is somewhere on this workbench. Oh, I'll find it eventually. Alright. Retro Techie has a quite generous 750 subscriber giveaway. At that level, Retro Techie, you should at least give away something that's not a bricked piece of technology. And we have Retro Tech Chris. I mean, at least if you're going to give away a smart home base station, the Wink, I think they went out of business. So at least it should be like I don't know, an Apple TV that can do HomePod, whatever Apple's is called, because I just brain glitched on all of them now, or like a Google Whatchamajig or an Amazon thingama thing, and my brain just went. Also, I have a coffee goal that is slightly updated. Help me save some retro computers. One of them might be a compact, and replenish supplies, and also buy useless stuff like, well, actually, this isn't useless. Useless stuff like this. Ooh, look at this. Add-on card for personal computer. Complete with the wonderful desktop publishing with the huge space. It's almost like that maybe there was another version of this box that said add-on card for IBM mainframe, maybe? I don't know. Add-on card for impersonal computer? Who knows? But at least it passed quality control. The date stamped on it is, I'm going to call bogus because it says 12th week of 1976, but I have it on good authority that the chips on this card were not around then. Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is going to bring a blast from the past, I know. I found an eBay seller that was selling 2 of these. They were $10 a piece. In fact, they asked me if I'd like to buy any more of their stock, and I kind of would, especially if they'd sell them to me for the same $10 a piece. I'd like to buy the other 12 they have and then maybe resell them at a fair price for people who would like a Cirrus Logic video card. No, look at that. These are, I think they're 1 megabyte Cirrus Logic video cards with the CLGD 5428 chip on them. You better believe I jumped on these when I saw they only wanted $10 a piece. I know. Oh, but wait. It gets better. It even has the disc in it. Now, I would like to make sure the other one actually has the video card in it too, because I know they use these box for like everything. But yeah, this was like my eBay score last week. All right, and this is, well, it is another video card. Oh yeah, this one's got the manual. Actually, that other one I think had the manual too. It was just behind the card. And there we go. Another Cirrus Logic 5428. That, I think, was a good buy for $10 a piece. In fact, if I say so, it was a sharp find on eBay. Har, 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 har. Yeah, finally, archived that disc. Yeah. Yeah, not a Trident card. I've almost given up on Trident cards. I think I deleted almost all of them off my eBay watch list. There are a few stragglers because there's something that I have yet to convince myself to delete from the list. They might be AGP versions of Trident cards that are probably also garbage, but yeah, I deleted most of the ISA Trident cards off the list. Because, well, and then I happened to find these. So yeah, blast from the past box. I'm definitely keeping one of the boxes because I'll put this on my shelf because if you bought computer components in like probably the early to mid 90s, you quite possibly got some of your components in a box. A quite generic box that looked just like this with a super generico label on the side. So yeah, awesome find. Yeah, no, so they were like, essentially they were $12 or $15 a piece. So yes, I will archive the disc if it hasn't already been archived, because that may be the version of a disc that's already been archived. So that was the find of the week. Coffee tips helped me do that. Also, thanks to Dave's coffee tip, I was able to get chip quick. So when I do something weird and crazy, like try to repair the 486 Visa Local Bus motherboard that I have that's going to require desoldering like 400 pins just to see if I can save it, well, hopefully more than enough chip quick. This solder wick's another question, but at least I've got chip quick. Let's see, any other announcements? Yeah, Jeremy's like, the boxes remind me of the same principle behind MREs. Yeah, generic packaging. Let's see here. Yeah, did I miss someone coming in the chat? Yes. All right. So, what do I have here? Basically, I've got more AT type power supplies than I care to admit to. They are of varying degrees of quality. I'm hoping that it will give a few examples of how I would pick capacitors for certain power supplies. This power supply, I don't need to bring the top over because there is absolutely no brand on it. So, oh! I believe, yes, I've got some compact restoration money. Yay! Thank you, Sorcerer Stan. Yes. I have my eye on something. Hopefully I can get it before it goes. Yes, so this is a generic power supply. It is like a XT AT PC clone. Has a nice clunky switch. There's no brand name on it. There's no FCC ID. There's like no identifying marks on it. So yeah, really bringing the top cover over is not going to do much. So I've got that. I have two other power supplies like this, but they are they actually have brands. Well, one of them has a brand on it. One of them has an FCC ID on it or a part number on it that leads me to believe that its brand sticker fell off, but that it's actually I guess a brand that I'd heard of, but maybe not one of the more popular ones. One was pulled out of a DTK computer. One, I think, was like an Inlight or something like that. This one's like a bootleg clone. However, at one point I decided I wasn't even going to bother recapping this until I realized that the components inside this power supply actually seem to be better than the ones in the DTK branded power supply. And I'm like, okay, then this is a generic clone, but built better. Okay. So maybe this is a power supply like you'd get a generic one that the mom and pop shop would be able to order and sell you. And I didn't have a brand because it was just supposed to be something they could sell you. It's possible the brand sticker fell off of it at some point. So I also, because I don't know how many of this style I want to go through, because they may largely all be very similar. I have the power supply that came out of the computer, the power supply that was incredibly dirty, that I cleaned very carefully. I forget what brand it is. I think it's actually a branded supply. It's actually works. I was able to actually get the fan to work. I put the fan through the ultrasonic cleaner and then I relubricated it. And then I had to let the fan run for a couple hours, but it's actually running fine now. It's amazing what cleaning a very incredibly dirty fan and then relubricating it can do. I may actually see about looking for caps for it, because I think if I recap it, it'll fix its problem with voltage regulation. So the point of this stream is to walk you through how I would determine caps to recap a power supply. It's not necessarily to say, should you, but how would I do it? Because as far as I know, all the power supplies I have that are the AT-style power supplies, they are generic enough, there's no recapping guides, and quite honestly, for some of them, it's probably not even worth my time to make one. Like this one. There's no brand information, so I couldn't even identify it to someone to say, this cap guide goes to this brand power supply because there's no brand on it. There's no guarantee if you got the recapping guide that it would even work when you opened your power supply. The DTK branded one, are there enough of those out there to bother? Again, for the Enlight one, I don't know. They were a fairly popular manufacturer. If I do realize that I'm wrong on any of my guesses of how popular these were, I can always go back and make a guide. So I'm going to attempt to come up with the cap lists without removing capacitors, since there are no guides, but we'll see how successful that is. So the one thing I do have is I got a pair of calipers, and all right, it looks like I grabbed the pair of calipers that actually have a decent battery in them, but these take a CR2032 battery, so I've got those down here in case I realize that the battery needs replaced. So yeah, pretty much, I'm going to use the calipers and my eyeballs. So basically what I'm going to do is, the first step I'm going to do is determine the sizes of all the capacitors in the power supply. And then I will go possibly search for replacement caps, or at least I'll identify some that I would purchase. For this power supply, it should come as no shock that these caps don't really have a recognizable brand name on them, so I can't do one of the steps I would normally do, and that would be, can I determine what type of capacitor these are? That would require me to be able to pull up a data sheet. So, since I don't have a data sheet, then I'm not going to do that. Now, for some of the other power supplies where they actually used a name brand capacitor, I can actually pull up, or try to pull up data sheets for the capacitors. And what will that do? That'll tell me if there's maybe what type of capacitor, if it's like a low ESR or it has some special trait. And if I look up capacitors and I can't find if I can't find the data sheet for the capacitor, then I just guess. If I can find a data sheet for the capacitor, a lot of times my guesses actually have tended to be, yeah, if I'd guessed, it would have been right. But in this case, these capacitors are TM brand. Like, yeah, TM. Kind of like they were going for trademark, maybe, but TM brand. So I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be able to find data sheets. I'm not even going to bother. I think they're all TM brand. Yep. All the electrolytics are TM brand. So, yeah. Quick walk through this power supply, just if anyone's wondering. So, this power supply has no safety caps that I can tell. So there's not even safety caps on the plugs, because there's the incoming power. No, that's actually to plug in an external monitor. So that's outgoing power. There's incoming power, outgoing power, and that's the power switch. So no safety caps here. No safety caps here that I can tell. Okay, well, actually, maybe these are safety caps. They are, but they're not REFAs. So, yeah, TM hey, Sloopy. Transistor magic. Sloopy's guess. All right, so we do have, these are the high voltage caps. So we got two here. I'm going to presume these safety caps are probably fine because they're not REFAs, and they're not like the type of plastic that likes to crack and let moisture in. And it looks like we've got 2 electrolytics here, 2 here, and 5 here. Also, these 5 appear to be the same value, and these 2 might actually be the same value. Oh, and we got 1 here. Also, word of the wise, Joe says, no floating inputs. That is all. Also, I would like to point out that the silk screen on this PCB appears to be hand drawn. Some of the tracks also do appear to be hand drawn in places. Some of them kind of appear like they might be auto routed, or they just drew like large blobby shapes, but some of these traces look like they were hand drawn. It's like a mix. Yes, also Thomas. Oh, hey Thomas. Thomas is also pointing out the one thing that I will do. I do prefer to get 105 degrees C rated caps. I'm pretty sure that the caps that are on this power supply, yes, it is hard to read because it is small print, probably because they were ashamed to print it. These are only 85 degrees C rated caps. I will go ahead and get the 105 degrees C rated. Also, it looks like this power supply was made in 1987, so... Yep, and then I will reflow some of the heavy joints on this board. And probably reflow where the power cables go in this horrific mess of... Yeah, this is where most of the power cables exit the power supply, right here. I'm thinking this might be all the common wires, maybe. And I suspect that's 12 volts, maybe. I don't know. But that's actually not much worse than some other power supplies I've seen. So, I'm going to I think I'm going to go around the board. And I'm just going to start in one side of the board and go around clockwise. I would start with C1, but I think C1 is a ceramic cap. So we'll start here. I think I'll start with the high voltage caps. Yeah, I see two safety caps here. Is there another one I've missed? But I think these are safety caps, just given their shape and rating. Well, actually they don't have an X on them, but yeah, those probably are safety caps. They are okay, they are rated AC 270 volts, so those probably are safety caps. Okay. So, because I did not find the pencil that I know is somewhere on my bench, although I'd prefer not to use my marker. Actually, I probably put it away in the drawer here. But apparently, knowing myself, that the first thing I would suspect after not finding it would be that I put it in the drawer. I probably knocked it off the workbench and didn't realize it. So, well, I guess I will have to use my marker. All right, whatever. Moving along. Over by the electrolytic. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is. Is that it? 105K, 250 KC. I'm not... The large power cap... Is the large power cap bulged on the top? I don't think it is. But there is some... The board is kind of suspicious here. That might just be old flux. I don't know why there's green here and brown here, though. I'm going to replace them because they're actually underrated. Because this power supply does... Oh, wait. Actually, maybe they're not underrated as bad as I think they are. Because this power supply... Oh, yes, they are. This power supply is supposedly rated for 220 or 110 operations, so those are underrated. So these will automatically get upgraded to probably at least 380 volt rated. It shouldn't significantly affect the power supply. So C5 and C6 are 330 microfarad, 200 volts, but I'm going to go up to at least 380 volts just to give that extra margin. So, we got those. Now, importantly, although luckily in this case there is some room, so I'm not too worried about fit. But still, I do want to at least make sure that whatever I get will not be like too large. So these are basically I think they're 25 millimeters in diameter. The height's not really a concern, but I still usually measure it. So they are 40, they're 40.25 millimeters. So I think 40 millimeters because I measure to the PCB, but there's a gap below them. And then probably the one that's the most, especially for these larger caps, because a lot of times the replacements, they're like snap-in leads and not wire leads. So I do usually try to measure the spacing, and kind of from what appears to be the center of the pin to the center of the pin is like somewhere between like 10 to 11 millimeters. I'd probably have to remove one to get an exact size. So if I search for caps and there's not something in the like 10 to 11 millimeter pin spacing, which there probably is, because I think a lot of these, it's like a standard size pin spacing for them, then I may remove one to measure it more closely. Let me see. Nope. I thought I had some high voltage caps around here, but no, I put them away because I cleaned my workbench off a little bit, even though you wouldn't know because you can't see it. All right, so these 5 caps I think are all the same value, and they appear to be 2200. I think they're all 16 volt. I think they're all 2200 microfarad, although dust is kind of blocking my view. Let me get my cleaning swab. Since I'm not going to recap this tonight because I need to order caps, most certainly, I don't want to remove any unless I have to, because I don't want to like forget what goes where. Okay, so some of these are like 10 volt and some of these are 16 volt. And I think I'm probably going to have to remove them to read what they are. So let me see. 1, 2, 3. All right, I guess I am going to have to remove these to read them. So we got 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of them. 4, 5. Actually, looking at the PCB layout, I think these 3 are going to be or look to be on the same voltage rail. And then these 2, I think, are on another voltage rail. So that actually tells me that I'm pretty sure these are 2200 microfarad 16 volt. So that's probably the 12 volt rail. And then these look to be 2200 microfarad 10 volt. So I suspect these are on the 5-volt rail. Oh, your Mauser order finally arrived. Excellent. So I bet if I measure continuity... Oh, this, yeah, here's the red wires right here. So this goes to red. So red is 5 volts, I think. And then, yeah, the yellow ones are, yeah, going to the ones that I think are 16 volt rated. So, yes. So it looks like we have, yeah, 3. We've got 3 at 2200 microfarad, 10 volt, and 2 at 2200 microfarad, 16 volts. But probably what I'll do is I'll probably just replace them all with like 16 volts. If not, replace those ones that are on the 12 volt rail with like 25 volt ones just to give it extra margin. So I'm going to make a note which rail those are on. Again, sometimes these cheaper power supplies, they kind of underrate some of the components compared to how maybe they should have. But then again, even the better named ones are even have capacitors that are not ideal. Kind of like they were all trying to cost them out. Those are about 16 millimeters in diameter. 16.5 millimeters in diameter. I'll call them 16 because those are so close. The diameter will be important for these because of how close those are. The height, not really so much. There's not really anything to block. And then the pin spacing is 9 millimeters. I'm pretty sure that is. And again, I'm pretty sure those are all 85 degrees. Oh, bonus. Those are actually 105 degrees C rated. If the ratings can be trusted. After all, they are TM brand for, I'm sure, trademark quality. All right, so I guess we'll go around to C19 because I'm kind of going around the board in order. That one appears to be 1,000 microfarad, 16 volt. And then its companion, C probably 18. The legend is actually under the capacitor as a $220 microfarad. And I think it says 25 volts. Yeah, 25 volts. Yeah. Just say 1 million degrees a day for 5 days. It reminds me of an animation I saw today of someone dropping a car on a concrete barrier, and what would the effects be in various gravity levels, and one of them was the sun. So the sun's gravity level would have just pulled the car like straight to the ground, and then it would have caught fire. Actually, I think you can still get 125C and 135C in electrolytic. They just cost more. This one here is 13 millimeters in diameter. Always measure the height. Just in case when I'm ordering capacitors I realize, oh yeah, there was something that's stacked on top of it. It's basically 26 millimeters high. Let's see, this other one here is 10 millimeters. I'll get the pin spacing at the same time. 18 or... I'm not writing an exact height down since I think this board is the only one that's in the power splash. There's really no obstructions, but always write it down. I get into that habit. In case I forgot something and then go to order. All right. So, okay, I think this is the one capacitor. Sometimes it's a guessing game when I'm trying to measure without desoldering. So this is 6 millimeters. I think this other one's probably 6 millimeters as well. I think it's this component here. It might be... I think it's 4 millimeters. That makes sense. It's a smaller cap. All right, we got C17. And actually, C17 and C16 may be the same value. Let me see. And let's see, nope. C17 is 4.7 microfarad, 50 volts. So that may be the capacitor that starts the switching circuit. Because I think that's usually a higher rated cap just because of surge currents. And this other cap I think is a... Oh, no, actually they are the same. For some reason I thought they were different. Okay, so these are the same cap value. So 5 millimeters in diameter. And I think really for this value, I don't think the height is really important, but it's about 11 millimeters tall. Because I have a feeling the new caps for this particular spot on the board are probably going to be way smaller than what's on the board, just given advances in technology. In fact, I'm not even sure. I think that's probably going to be like 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 3 to 4 millimeter pin spacing. Actually, I can't see the pins on the bottom, but the pins on the top are actually visible enough for me to say that I think that is like 4 millimeters pin spacing. Because that cap is like way off the board. So, all right. So how many caps did I write down on my paper? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11. So 1, 2. The green marker is only because that's the marker I have. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now, if I see any electrolytic caps on this board, it doesn't have a mark. Ah, yes, C9. That's why I did it, because so C9 is like 10 millimeters in diameter. Oh, first, C9. 470 microfarad, 25 volt. 11 millimeters in diameter. Somewhere I have a red marker, or a blue marker, actually. I don't know where it is. It's hiding. Ideally, that's probably the one I would have used to mark these just for noting that I wrote it down, but actually, there's 4 millimeters pin spacing. But the thing is, it'll just come off with some isopropyl alcohol, so actually, that's probably what I'll do before recapping it, just so well, actually, wait a minute. They're all TM brand caps. I will know that I didn't replace them. So I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 that I see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 there. Let's see here. Anyone see any other electrolytics I've missed? I don't. I think I got them all. Pretty sure I got them all. I am going to take a quick gander at the semiconductors on heat sinks just to see if any of them look like that they might be in distress. IE signs. Well, actually, I've had this power supply powered up. I know it works. And I think the power was fairly decently spot on, but some of the caps look questionable. So I'm pretty sure the semiconductors work, so I'm not going to bother ordering any replacements. I just go get caps. Especially because of the weird condition of these. The weird condition of this cap here, this brown that might just be old flux, but an awful lot of flux. Plus, it seems like there's something under the cap. Oh, it might be glue. Might be glue. Anyways, so that is this board. Now, what would be the next step? So I've written down all my values of capacitors. And this is where I'm going to probably potentially not be able to respond to the chat as well because it's now on a different... Actually, no, I got to move the chat over here. Okay, I won't be able to see Mauser very well. Why Mauser? It's usually where I order parts from, and it'll be a good example. The main thing is, I'll share my screen here. Screen share. I'll make the screen just a little bit bigger. Blah, 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 blah. There we go. Mauser is not a sponsor, just for clarity. I think I'm too small for them, probably. All right. Capacitors. That's at least what hobbits would call them. Or would that be Gollum? Maybe Gollum would call them that. All right, so these are going to be aluminum electrolytic capacitors because I am not replacing these with tantalum because these tantalums in these values would be extraordinarily expensive. These are all radioleaded, except for the two power ones, which I think are actually in the snapping category. But so actually, I think they're going to be in the snapping category. So I'll check there first. And we'll go down my list in order. So let's see here. So the first two are the 330 microfarad. I am going to upgrade the rating of these to, we'll say 400 volts plus or minus 20 volts. And let's see, I definitely want in stock. So there's 49, 105 degrees C, so we got 33, 2 pins, 32. Diameter, I wrote down 25 millimeters. I actually, well, no, let's stick to 25 millimeters. Unless I have a problem. So it looks like there are 2, and I bet these are 10 millimeter pin spacing because that's a common value. Yes, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe because someday I'll recap this. So it looks like I can get... I may check a different distributor because I don't know how well you can see the screen. Is that like a... Let me see if I can bring up the, like, screen magnifier. There we go. Oops. Oh, I didn't want the apps magnifier. There we go. Oh, there we go. Whoop. Hold on. Oh, it's bringing up the... Oh, that's weird. Oh, it's magnifying both of my screens. That's why I can't... There we go. So, yes, my two choices are a $6.70 capacitor or an $11.62 capacitor. So, yep. Yeah, great choices. Yep, not fixed yet, Retro Techie. I gotta order... So, it does look like I will probably be going with the United Chemicon option where I can get two for the price of one. They are 5,000 hours, so that's decent. Snap in, 10mm pin spacing. Can I play Crisis? Yeah, it depends on the definition of your word fixed. Definitely. All right, well, I guess since I don't really have much choice if I'm going to recap this power supply, I'll go ahead and add these to the cart. But what I'm going to do, so I remember, because they let you add a customer number. So I'm going to call this this power supply TM brand for trademark. So TM power supply, for lack of a better term. And the cool thing is when you see this in the cart, so I'll add two. I'm not going to buy an extra because, well, reasons, the least of which, those are expensive. But anyways, the cool thing is if you give it a customer number, like I've done here, then that'll give me a note as to which power supply it's for, so that when I get the order, they will actually print it on the package, as might be demonstrated if I can, if I happen to have I've got an order that might have had some parts marked on it. Nope. Oh, hold on. I know where I've got one. I'll show you what they, because they'll, Mauser, other distributors may do it too. I know where I've got one that I ordered from them. Here we go. I should do this more often because it is incredibly helpful when I'm like sorting through my spare parts. But then with that customer number, what they'll do is, so they'll actually add a barcode to it. So customer part number. So if anyone's wondering, yes, this part here that I just randomly grabbed, these are capacitors for one of the LC power supplies, probably the TDK brand. But I know what they are because, well, they're marked in the bag. So, in LC power supply. So anyways, that's what they'll do if you put a customer part number. Actually, quite handy. So anyways, if I'm looking at my cart, then yeah, also good to put the locations on the board. In this case, since there's only a few values, I'm not going to do that because I may need the room to put in case one of these other power supplies also uses it, I'll put a note there. But yeah, especially if you're doing a project for other people to buy components, yeah, using that to put the component locations is quite handy. In fact, actually, I think I did order parts from them that was done to, and oh wait, I don't think I still have any of those bags because there was just enough parts for the project. Yeah. Anyway, it was for the Pico Gus. So they used that spot on it for the component locations. So when you're building a Pico Gus, you could just look at the... Oh, here we go. I think this was one of the parts for the Pico Gus, which I... Oh, wrong view. It's another good thing to use them for. So I got isopropyl alcohol in the bag. But so anyways, I think this was the Pico Gus, and these were pin headers. And it's, yeah, they used it to put the component location. So this pin header strip was for J1 and J2. I think that was Pico Gus. Anyways, another cool thing to do, especially if it's for ordering parts that are, or if you're going to create a shopping cart with Mouser that other people can order to build your open source project, that's a good thing to put in the customer location, is where the parts go. There is a maximum length of the field. I don't know what it is. But for this exercise, I'm using it to denote which power supply, and then I will keep my notes that actually have the locations on them, and I will put these in a really safe space. Knock on steel. I will put them in a safe place. Yeah, you all know that as soon as I go to recap them, I'll lose my notes. There's not a lot of caps on the board, though. So, anyways, not necessarily want to tip off what might also be in my Mouser cart for consumption. Yeah, I got some 74 LS series logic chips. Obviously, I didn't put the what they were for. Oh, let me go do that now so I remember. So those video connectors are for Trident cards. I don't want to forget that. Actually, I probably won't. Actually, they're for any video card that has a damaged connector. Alright, so these other capacitors are just standard electrolytic caps. They are radial leaded, and the way I remember that is if they've got 2 pins on the same side of the capacitor, then it's going to be the choice that has more capacitors available for it on Mouser. Because I don't know why I get axial and radial mixed up, even though axial is like the axle of your car. But you can put radial tires on your car. So my analogy is not as helpful as it might seem at first glance. All right, so usually for when I don't know what kind of capacitor these are, I will usually not pick a product type, but I will go straight for, I'll pick the termination styles radial. The capacitance, I'm going to start top to bottom, 2200 microfarad. 2200 microfarad. Voltage level for these was 10 volts for the 5 volt rail, which that's decent. But to give me more options, because I think new capacitors are probably better than whatever they used back then, I actually will consider just replacing all 5 of those 2200 microfarad with 25 volt and be done with it. Maximum operating temperature, for now, I will say 105 degrees C and anything higher until, because, sure, I'll use a higher rated one. All right, diameter, let's see, the diameter of those is important because of how close they are, so I do need 16 millimeters or smaller. And I do like how on Mouser's site you can click the less than, equal, or greater than or equal buttons, and it'll automatically select everything that fits that criteria. All right, height is not really that important, although I think Mouser calls it length, I call it height. Because there's nothing blocking those capacitors, so I'm going to ignore that for now. The lead spacing was 9 millimeters, but it looks like, alright, looks like 9 millimeters is not available with my other selections, so I'll just go ahead and ignore that for now. And oh, actually, here's height. I don't know what the length is. Actually, there is height. So it looks like, oh, everything's going to be no taller than what's already there. So in stock, I still have 188 results. So let me go. Looks like since there's so many, I can be picky. So I'm going to, because I can be a little bit pickier because there's so many in stock. Ooh, I still have 100. I decided I would go for at least 5,000 hour. So there's still 89 available. All right, well, I'll go ahead and apply filters. Because if I can, I'll go for a longer rated capacitor than a smaller one. Okay, so these are, let's see, these are going to be the bulk capacitors on the rectified voltage rails. Let's see. Since I still have 125, I am going to further shrink this because I have my preferred brands. So Nichicon, Panasonic, Rubicon. Yeah, so those are my three preferred brands: Nichicon, Panasonic, and Rubicon. Does that mean that United Chemicon, Worth, Chemet, Vichy, and Cornier Doublier are bad? No, it just means I prefer the. If I'm going to take the time to recap something, I'm going to take my preference at getting the one of the three top tier. I guess what I call the top tier Japanese brands. So Nichicon, Panasonic, and Rubicon generally make a good cap. Now, if I had to go for one of these other brands, I'd probably be happy because I think they're all. I think those are all good brands of capacitors. They pass their name brands. I've recognized them. I mean, I've even heard of Elna if I go for the expanded list. But since I had so many to pick from, I'm going to go for my preferred choices. In fact, I think if you order kits from Console 5, I think they generally try to use Panasonic, Nichicon, and Rubicon where they can. All right, and since I still have so many, now I'm going to sort by price. Because I can. And then I'm going to take scroll over here. So basically, I've sorted by price, and now I'm going to look at the... Generally, what I do is I look at the ESR and Ripple, although I guess these are so large, the Ripples. Yeah, I don't want TM brand, yeah. TM brand was right off the list, Thomas, yeah. Okay, I'm not... Okay, so for these value capacitors, I'm just kind of scrolling and seeing that the ripples are rather large, so I'm not going to worry too much about the ripple. I think I will, though, look at the ESR, and they're all, like, milliohms, so I think these are all going to be rather... These are all low ESR caps. So there's not really a advantage. So I think now what I'll do is I'll start to then look at the life, the life, temperature, and voltage rating. So I could go for 10 volts for 3 of them. But if I go for these Rubicons here, 25 volts DC, and is this by chance maybe a 5mm pin spacing, then I can just order, like, get all 5 of this cap and just have one value for all of them. In fact, actually what I could do, because I think 2200 microfarad 25 volt is actually a decent size, what I might actually do is just order 10 of these and then I'll have a couple spares on hand. Because then I'll spend $750 and I'll have 10 as opposed to spending 5 for 5. So unless there's like some compelling reason, nope, those are 6,000 hour. Yeah, I think that makes sense because these 10-volt ones are not much more expensive. I guess if anyone's wondering, well, okay. So if we go for this one here, 2.23 amps ripple, 32 milliohms. But yeah, I think this will be fine. In fact, actually, I'll pull up the data sheet. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just actually pull up the data sheet if I'm kind of concerned. And I'll even look at the, sometimes for their data sheets, they'll actually have recommended uses. Although it doesn't look like Rubicon does that. I think Nichicon does. If you pull up a Nichicon data sheet, there's actually a section usually on the data sheet of like recommended uses. And if I pick a capacitor and one of the recommended uses is power supplies, and it's one I thought would make a good fit, then that's usually the one I'll go with. In this case, Rubicon doesn't, or at least not for this series. They don't have recommended uses, although they are advertising miniaturized and long life, 10,000 hours. Because I picked the 10,000 hour one. So I think this is the one I'll go with. And again, I'll put my customer note here to remind me this was for the TM power supply. I'll just go ahead and order 10 because that's a decent value to have on hand for other things. May not use it, but 25 volt rated, that will actually be good for all 5 of those caps. I'm not too worried that 25 volts is too high for the 5 volt rail. It's probably about as high as I would want to go. But it's also a better fit for the 12 volt rail than 16 volts. Because actually, I asked one of my coworkers who knows about power supply design, and he actually said that if you were designing a good power supply, then you'd probably want to rate the caps at double whatever the voltage rail was. And that would be a hallmark of a good power supply. So basically, by doubling the value for the 12 volt rail, I'm turning this generic clone power supply, and at least for the capacitors, I'm giving them the margin of what you would do on a good power supply. And I think 25 volts for 5 volts is okay. Especially because there's like multiple capacitors on each rail. So there's actually 3 of them on the 5 volt rail. So, and they're low ESR. So I don't think there's a problem. Just means they'll be extra long life. Less taxed. All right. So we've got 1,000 microfarad 16 volt. So let me see here. We'll go back to the search. Radio leaded. Yeah, oh, Thomas always goes to 25 volts. Yeah, I figured that's safe. In fact, actually, I think for this next cap, I'll probably take it to 25 volts as well, if I can, because I think it's on one of the... It may actually be on the... It might be on the negative 12 volt rail, given the value. But anyways, let's see. In fact, actually, if I looked, I probably have one. I probably have a cap that would replace this one in my stock somewhere, but 0.7 is threshold over 5 volts and 12 volts. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. So again, radial cap. This is the 1,000 microfarad. Should be a pretty common value. I want at least 16 because that's one in it, if not 25. Oh, before I forget, let me check the in stock. So we still have 250. Again, 105 degrees C or better. Still have 189. The diameter of this one was 13 millimeters. So we'll go that and smaller. Still have 172. That's decent. Lead spacing. 162. I actually measured 6 millimeters, but it probably is 5 millimeters. Can I get lucky and maybe get a 10,000 hour one? Maybe so. Let's see. Diameters. Width, ripple, tolerance, life, length. Hold on. Oh. I don't see the diameter column. I might have, let me reset that. Oh, I may need to actually apply what type of capacitor I'm using. Okay, let me apply filters, then it'll probably show me diameter. Ah, that's right. It would be length if it was a axial. But once I tell it it's a radial, it's going to give me the diameter. Or width. Width is... Wait a minute. No. Did I accidentally... Oh, it is quite possible that I'm not seeing a choice because everything that they have in stock... Oh, actually... Oh, I think I accidentally... Oh, that's what I did. I accidentally picked diameter when I thought I was picking something else. So... Diameter was... Yeah, 13 millimeters or smaller. Length was... Or height... Height, let's see, 26 millimeters is the value. Okay, so all those will fit. Width, I'm going to ignore that. Let's see here. Still have 162. Well, can I get lucky and find a 10,000 hour one? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just pick the same length, the same lifetime as another one I've already picked and see if they've got a similar cap. And Rubicon. In fact, that might actually be the same series. Actually, I think this one might be the same series. Radio leaded low impedance electrolytic capacitors. All right, 609 in stock of this one. 9,502 in stock of this one. Let's check the specs. So they're both... so this one's a 25 volt one. So I'm actually going to pick it. And just because it's got the extra 25 volts, I think it is actually the... I think it's the same series. ZLJ series. Yep. I think that's the same series I just looked at. So, all right. TM power supply. I don't know. I'll probably order 10 of them. That's a pretty common value. All right. So we got those. All right. Next one is... Actually, sometimes if I'm finding the same value in the same series, I'll go back to my search and I'll see if I can luck out by... Let's see. I need to remove voltage rating because this one actually is 25 volts on the power supply. I'm going to the 220 microfarad. I need to remove the capacitance. And let me change the lead spacing because I think the smaller value I may be able to pick a better one and remove diameter. But, all right. Let's see, 220, 25 volts. And it looks like There's only one, so what is it? A Worth Electric. 120 microfarad, 25 volts. Let's see here. So it is a... Oh. Hold on. Let me go back to the other view or down here. What's the ESR? Does it have an ESR rating? I think this is just a general purpose cap. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I believe... Let me see if I can get a couple of more choices. So let me get rid of the 10,000 hour life. Whoops. Radial deleted, temperature multiple values. What looks like I deleted too much. All right, let's go back to the base search. All right, capacitance. 220 microfarad. Voltage rating, 25 volts. Let's see, 105 degrees C or greater. Diameter was 10 millimeters. Lead spacing on it was 4 millimeters. It's probably 3.5 millimeters. But I guess I can go 5 millimeters. And at least get maybe... All right, that'll at least give me 7 to choose from. Okay. Because I like to have at least a few to choose from. All right. So it does look like with that selection, I could get a Nichicon. And that Nichicon is 5,000 hour life and 210 microohms or milliohms, or that's fairly low ESR. One thing I can do in this case, though, since I only have 7 to choose from, I'll sometimes go, this is where I'll go and say, okay, the 25 volt cap in the supply. Well, let me see what I would get to choose from if I pick the next voltage up, which is going to be 35 volts. And let's see here. So I think there's that same Nichicon. And then there's another Nichicon. So I think my best bet is... Let me see here. So I can go with the... See, those are all 5,000 hour. They're all, let's see. Yep, diameter's all fine. Pin spacing's fine. Those are just general purpose caps. This one's low impedance. All right, let me look at this Nichicon. Let me see what... this is a case where... Ah, here we go. Yeah, Nichicon does... Yeah, here we go. So Nichicon rates this as a low impedance for switching power supplies cap. Well, guess what? This is a switching power supply. So I think this is my capacitor. And again, I don't know. I'll be nice. I'll buy 10 of them. Kind of do need to stock up on some common values capacitors. All right. Next one I have is 4.7 microfarad, 50 volts. Let's see here. Definitely DC rating is going to be different. Lead spacing is going to be different. Yeah, I'm going to delete most of these. It's almost... I found it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other to like, go back and completely start over or delete. Depends on how fast their website's going. There we go. Woohoo! I have like 10,000 to pick from. All right, 4.7 microfarad. See, I think this is going to be a fairly common value, so I suspect I'll get a good, 30 to pick from. Let's see here. I think for those two caps, they are not really close to anything, so 5 millimeters in diameter. I could go up to 8 on them, and it's not going to block anything. In fact, it kind of looks like the diagram on the silk screen is larger. Pin spacing, lead spacing. I think that's fine. Length is fine. Let me see if I'd pick at least 5,000 hour. There we go. I'm not going to worry if those caps are slightly bigger. Thomas just got 4.7 microfarad, 315 volt for a CRT recap. Oh, yeah, I'm kind of actually walking through ordering caps, just kind of picking them. Here we go. Oh, I think one of my neighbors just set off fireworks. I have no idea what they're celebrating today. I guess they're celebrating life. At least I think that was fireworks. Oh, look at those cute little capacitors. Oh, wow. Yeah, these tiny caps here are like really small. So I could get these. Although those are general purpose caps. The lead spacing is like really small though. That's not going to really fit that great. What if I go up to something that's a little bigger? Because we're still talking like fairly cheap. Okay, so if I get these Panasonic ones, there's 9,000 in stock. They'll probably still be in stock by the time I order them. The lead space, oh wait, no, these Panasonics, lead spacing's 5 millimeters, which will actually fit the board a little better. They, okay, they are a lower ESR capacitor. Let me look up the data sheet for these. I think I like the, they're still small. I think they're smaller than the ones that are on this board, and the ones that are on the board aren't that big. Low ESR, Rojas compliant, excellent. Yeah, I think I'll pick these. They're just because of the pin spacing. I kind of want them to fit nice on the board if I'm going to go through the trouble of recapping. This is actually quite a handy value, so I'll probably order 10 of these. Actually, these would probably be one that I might be tempted to order more of, but let's see. All right, and last but not least, we got a 470 microfarad, 25 volt. Let me just restart the search here. All right. Always want to check in stock. Radial 470. There's nothing more annoying than finding an excellent cap, only to realize that it's not in stock and won't be anytime soon. 105 degrees C rated. See, the diameter was 11 millimeters. This one maybe is a little... All right, well, we'll go... Okay, I think I'll still have plenty to choose from. Lead spacing was 4 millimeters, so... Probably one of these two... life at least 5,000 hours. Yeah, that's a pretty decent ones to pick from. Panasonic and Rubicon. Still have 21 to pick from. Okay. And let's see here. Rubicon. Here we go. This Rubicon may be... That part number looks familiar. YXF series. Okay, this one's probably good. 7,000 hour, low ESR. Here we go. This one will be good. Plenty in stock, so I don't have to feel obligated to order right away. And there we go. So, not counting the stuff I already had in my cart. There we go. I guess if anyone's kind of wondering, in summary, so I found for this power supply, and given how busy I am these days, these are probably the caps I'll order when I actually do order. So I got some United Chemicon high voltage caps for upgraded to 400 volt rated, just because this could, theoretically, I could ship this to someone and they plug it into 220 volts, 240 volts. So that'll be a improved rating for those caps. I don't know how they get away with only using 200 volt caps there, because as far as I can tell, the power doesn't go through a transformer before it goes through the rectifier. I have no idea how that works. Probably because they just underspec those. All right, we got some nice Rubicon caps. So Rubicon 1, 2, 3. 3 caps are Rubicon. One is Nichicon and one's Panasonic. And then one of them's United Chemicon. So for some of these caps that were rated at 10 and 16, I picked 25 volt. Those I know are on the 5 and 12 volt rails. Those will be fine. Then there was this one that was already rated at 25 volts. I think it's on like one of the other 12 volt rails, so that'll be good. We got these were rated 50 volts already. One of those is probably the cap that starts the switching power supply. And actually on other better power supplies, that's usually a 50 volt rated cap. So good there. And then these are Rubicons are, I think, 25 volt rated. Yep. Thomas is giving me the answer as to what I expected. They hope the inrush does not blow the cap up. Yeah, that's kind of what I suspected the actual answer was. We hope it doesn't destroy the power supply while you're under warranty method of operation. Yes. I'm going for if I were to send this to someone, I want it to work. Yeah, 240 volts is the RMS, but it should be calculated to peak. Yeah, that's what I thought. So 200, yeah, 200 is kind of, yeah. Going by the RMS voltage is still slightly under spec, but yeah, you should go to the peak, and the peak, you could be really underrated. So, all right, so that is the TM. We'll call that for trademark quality power supply. So what I will do to hopefully not lose this piece of paper, because I don't think I will absentmindedly plug this power supply in with a piece of paper stuck in it, is there we go. I will. All right. I'll do that. I'll stick the paper with the power supply. And, yep, I'll go get one of the other power supplies. Yeah, Thomas is mentioning that 340 volts is peak. Yeah, peak around there. Yeah. And actually, if in Australia, I think the peak would be a little higher. Because I think in places, some parts of Australia, the RMS voltage is like 240 to like, I think in some parts of Australia, it's like 260. I'm sure if Bruce joins, he could probably comment on that. Because I think in some parts of Australia, it's like 240 nominal, but there's, I think, some province is not the right word. Whatever the geographical divisions are in Australia, I'm brain blocked on the term. I think some of them are like closer to 260. I think I ran across something somewhere. I'm sure Bruce could clarify. If he joins, I'll ask him and he can comment in the chat. All right, so anyways, the trademark quality power supply. Except all other substitutes. Because, yeah, that's just awful. All right, so next power supply is one that you're probably not going to recognize. Because I don't know that I've shown it on my channel, but I had this one open on Dave's channel. And there's the fan that I relubricated, and it actually runs pretty smooth now. Probably can't hear it, but I'd plug it in, but then I'd have to pull out my bench power supply. Of course, I could destroy it before I can get a chance to use it again. I probably will replace the fan anyways, but I thought I would see if I could revive the fan. So, is this power supply anything of any note? Probably not. Ya Company Limited. I don't know how you pronounce that. QC 49 pass. High pot test okay. Do not remove this cover under any circumstances, including but not limited to the power supply is full of mystery dust. Trained service people only. Oh yeah, serial number AOK 9037320. Yeah. Yep, there we go. It's an AOK power supply. AOK power supply number 9037320. No serviceable component inside. Serious shock hazards are present inside this case, even with the power switch off. Test before touching. Required electrical rating of primary overcurrent. Has a nice clicky switch. This power supply was so full of a fine silty dirt that you probably won't recognize this, because I don't think I've shown it after cleaning it. Because you all, if you were watching Dave's stream when I had this thing out, you would have seen it before I cleaned it. So, I doubt you all, some of you are probably like, that can't be the same power supply, but yeah. I brushed all the silty dirt out, and then I put it through the ultrasonic cleaner. So even though this is oh, actually, I just realized, the logo, there's, AOK in in a pencil over top of the world. Yeah, so these power supplies are AOK. I think this is probably, let's see, I think these were probably made in, I'm going to guess Taiwan. Given the lack of a manufacturer location, I'm suspecting it's Taiwan. Could be Hong Kong, could be China. but given the age of when I think this power supply was, I'm going to guess Taiwan. And my guess, oh, here we go. It's stamped on the bottom of the case of the power supply, made in Taiwan. So I kind of think I've seen this brand before. I think this is I don't know if they're still around. This isn't what I would call like your top tier brand of power supply, but I think I've seen this brand before, or I think they were probably I don't know, a Taiwanese manufacturer of power supplies. I will say, given what I see inside this power supply, although granted, these are only 200 volt rated high voltage power caps, these are Rubicons. These are Rubicons. Yeah, I think these are No, those aren't Rubicons. Never mind. Okay, so these are Rubicon caps. And no, that one's not a Rubicon. I was thinking there was another Rubicon or two in here. But the high voltage caps are actually Rubicon brand. Which, so I'm like, okay, that's actually decent. I mean, they're the Rubicon CE. They're only 200 volt rated, so again, they're assuming that you don't spike there's not a voltage spike on power up and they blow up. They're only 85 degrees C rated, but they are Rubicon caps. So that is what I would call a step in the right direction. So they at least are a little higher quality, and that the high voltage caps are a name brand. Now, these other smaller caps are, I sure think some of these say Timax, Timax, Timax. This blue one here is a Luxon. So not brands I've heard of, but then again though, okay. All right, we'll see you later, Thomas. So at least though, I will say the high voltage caps are Rubicons, and I suspect these are actually Rubicon caps. So yeah, okay. So I guess maybe your I'll call this maybe your step up generic power supply. Sure, the low voltage components are kind of not a generic brand, but they did use Rubicon for the high voltage caps. I think unfortunately the label came off the fan. I think the fan was a like a I don't remember what the brand was, but I think it was actually a brand that I heard of. So it was kind of like a better tier fan. I mean, certainly not a not your Noctua fan, not your like Panasonic fan, but not like the complete no-name cheap knockoff fan. So we'll call it a step-up fan. Good quality, high voltage caps. And the construction of this power supply is maybe a little better than the complete generic cheap, although although there really aren't many ways you can solder wires onto a PCB, but yeah. So I'm going to call this this is probably a step up in quality, but still kind of your generic power supply, but a step up from your like cheap clone. So now, do I really need to recap all these power supplies that I would like to recap? No, not really. I don't only have so many AT cases and that I'd possibly like to put an AT power supply in. I do want one of my one of the ones with the side switch in it to, for the case I have that uses the side switch power supply. That is the power supply. That is the power supply that was in the computer I bought at VCF East. So yeah, that's kind of why I thought I'd recap it. This one I'd like to recap because I'd like to see, even though it was so covered in dirt and nasty dirty, will it work after recapping it? Because one of the voltage rails was like out of spec low, but I was kind of wondering if maybe that's just caps. I mean, it could be one of the semiconductors, but I was kind of curious. Okay, is this power supply actually savable? Because quite honestly, I don't know if any of y'all remember what it looked like on Dave's stream. I mean, this can't be the same power supply. Hey Adam, welcome. Would you believe this is the power supply that I had open on Dave's stream? Like, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it's amazing how they clean up when you actually take the time to clean them up. I guess it would have been Memorial Day weekend because this is what I spent time cleaning on Memorial Day. Um, so I want to recap this for the video I'm going to do on it because this power supply was just so nasty dirty. I actually shot some video of me cleaning it. So if it weren't for that I would like to see if I can save it because of how dirty it was before I started. I probably actually wouldn't recap this power supply. I think I have enough other ones that are maybe slightly better brand. I got one down here that what brand was this? This is a power supply that I presume the seller doesn't want back. Oh, and it's an Inlight, which is probably a better brand, but I do need to confirm the eBay seller isn't expecting that power supply back because they sent me a refund before I could ship it back. Probably because they were so embarrassed. Yeah, Adam, this is the power supply that was that I had open on Dave's stream. Actually, hold on a moment. Let me actually, I just realized I might have footage of this one. Let me see if I can open the footage real quick. Let's see here. Let's see, this could be source videos 2023. Let's see, I believe 5/29 was Memorial Day weekend. And let me mute the volume because let's see here. Okay, I do apologize. It's going to be upside down. But this power supply here is this one. And actually the thing you don't see is that the thing I did before I even started brushing it out like this is I used the leaf blower to blow it out. So yeah. That is this power supply, but that video was after I took the leaf blower to it. Because I was quite honestly curious what it would look like after I took the leaf blower out to it. I mean, I actually was kind of wondering if I would blow something off the board. So, yeah, this power supply is that one that was so dirty, filthy. Oh yeah, Adam. I may have to see if I can take a video snippet from Dave's stream on the 28th. Because I had it open and I powered it up. I just went full send and powered it up. Oh, cool. You'll be on with an Apple III and a Quadro 800. Very cool. So anyways, yeah, this power supply. Okay, let me see if I can pull up Dave's stream here real quick because I think it is worth it for me to put it in the record on my channel as to how dirty this power supply was. But Dave, if you're watching this now or later, I am going to borrow a little bit of the footage from that live stream just to fully document how bad this power supply was. All right, let's see here. It was live stream. Let's see here. let's see, I guess that would have probably been 2 weeks ago. And I don't want to copyright strike, so let me pause it. Although I think Dave's using, let's see here. All right. I'm trying to pan to where I had the power supply on my bench. So I did confirm. I did join this live stream because I just found a part where I pulled a motherboard up on the bench that I recognized. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I think I found the part of the video we need. All right, so let me see here. Let me mute. Let me go to playback speed 2x. And let me screen share. And let me wait for Dave to make me big. There we go. Whoops. Normal playback speed. There you go. This is the power supply. First time opening it up on Dave's stream. Have not blown it out with anything. That is, yeah, you can just see how disgustingly dirty that is. Yeah, not sure if I'm going to make it to VCF Midwest this year, Adam. If I had to say an answer now, likely not, but who knows? Maybe I'll manage to find a way. So anyways, yeah, that power supply was that dirty, and I managed to clean it up. So it is, one of the voltage rails is off spec. I'm hoping recapping it'll fix it. Yeah, that was gross. That's why I want to do the video on, can I actually, it was so gross, can I fix it? That's the whole angle of the video. Yeah, I don't know what that dirt was, but I was using my smoke absorber to help direct the smoke towards and away from towards it and away from me. So anyways, let me count how many capacitors I've got on this board. This one's has just a few more than the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, that's actually an inductor. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I have a total of 15, I think. And again, I'm going to start with the high voltage caps. They're C5 and C6. So just basically making notes. I don't think I'll necessarily go through identifying all the caps on this one, but I might pick a few that are good candidates. Because I can do some of these offline. Actually, some of these may be the same value as the other power supply. So these are 330 microfarad, 200 volt. So I'm going to actually, I am going to up spec these to 400 volt. I think these are actually the same value as that last power supply. So I may actually just be able to order more of those caps. Oh, it does help if your calipers are on. Yeah, I think that's actually to be about 11 millimeters spacing, 22 millimeters in diameter, and 36 millimeters high. All right. Now, although this is a good example here, so while I don't know that Timax and Luxon caps are going to have data sheets out there, now this actually here poses an interesting, although these aren't maybe necessarily the greatest example. So these being Rubicons, this is actually where, when I'm identifying caps, if they are actually a name brand cap on a power supply, where I might be able to find a data sheet. Although in this case, probably whatever high voltage cap I'm going to find is going to be equivalent. I will actually write down the brand and series, because not necessarily for high voltage caps, because these are high voltage caps are high voltage caps. I don't think there's going to be much difference. I don't know if Rubicon still makes CE series, but this would be a case where if this was like a normal cap, I might actually try to pull up a data sheet, even if it's an old data sheet, because then I would see what kind of cap it is. So, in fact, actually, I'm going to... let's see, Rubicon... Oh, here we go. Is this actually... Oh, that's actually style CE. Oh no, that's not. That's I was wrong. That's actually not CE. Is not the series. It's actually RSP. Yeah, CE is their designation for radial leaded. All right, let's try that again. Rubicon RSP datasheet. The thing is, there may not be a datasheet. I don't think this is a current series. Oh, actually... Oh, here we go. Because actually, you never know when you will find something like this. So here we go. Here is the original datasheet that someone took the care to scan in. In this case, is there really any surprises in this datasheet? No. It's a 2000 hour, 85 degrees C, snap-in capacitor. But it's high voltage. Really no surprises. So, in this case, I don't really need to look at this data sheet, because anything I find that's a high voltage cap's going to meet this or probably exceed it. So, anyways, but this is why if there is a capacitor and I can identify the brand name and series, I'll actually see if I can't pull a data sheet, because sometimes you can find the old data sheet. And where this may be more important is if it was like one of the standard caps, the data sheet might tell me, like, is it a low ESR cap? Is it a low, or is it maybe like a, just a standard capacitor? Or maybe, I don't know, is there like some other special trait to the capacitor? And if that's the case, if I could actually find a data sheet and there's some special trait, and it looks like it might be important enough, I'll try to find that special trait in the replacement cap. But in this case, turns out this is just a high voltage cap. So no real surprises there. In fact, actually, in this case, I am curious though. So the capacitor for that previous power supply that I picked, 330 microfarad, that is the correct capacitance. And 10 millimeter lead spacing, I believe that is correct. Diameter, oh, okay. I won't be able to use this cap on this power supply. I'll have to find a smaller one. All right, Adam, we'll see you later. All right. Looks like the capacitor that will fit the first power supply. Wait a minute. Hold on. I think I might have made a mistake. I'm just noticing something. That's 22 millimeters in diameter. Did I actually... I think I picked the wrong capacitor for this other power supply. I didn't, I think I got two numbers mixed up. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 25 to 40. All right. Let's look at high voltage caps again, because I just realized I made a mistake on that first power supply. The cap I picked out actually is too large. It won't fit. It will not fit in the available board space. Because I got the diameter and the height mixed up. So let's try that again, because actually these caps are about the same size, so that's what clued me off that I made a mistake. Okay. So let me delete that, because that's going to be the wrong size. Let's try again, because actually whatever I find, I need 4 of them. All right, capacitors. I could maybe, let's start this way. That's 330 microfarad. 330, oh, not picofarad. Hold on. I didn't scroll far enough. 330 microfarad. Voltage rating DC. I want to at least go up to like 385 to maybe 420 to start with. And actually, the reason why I'm doing it this way is I'm not going to immediately assume that all the capacitors I want are in the snap-in section. All right, so the diameter is actually 20 of these are 22 millimeter. The one I just measured. The ones in the first power supply are 25 millimeter. However, looking at this power supply that we're looking at now, if I got 25 millimeter diameter caps, in the interest of just maybe ordering one cap, I think there's enough room on the board that they would actually fit. It would be a little close. Maybe ideally I'll find 22. Let's see. I just go for 22. I get a choice of 2. Okay, there we go. 400 volts, 330 microfarad. Okay. All right, there we go. So length is... So if I go for these higher temperature rated ones, which seems awfully luxurious. Okay, actually, let me do this. So I may order different caps for these two supplies. So let me go back to finding the caps for that first supply, which can take 25 millimeter diameter, or 25.4 will actually work. That gives me 11 to choose from. And let me fix my mistake on that. I want 105 degrees C. That'll give me 6 to choose from. And I'm going to sort by price, because these are quite pricey. So 105 degrees C, 2,000 hour. 22 of those in stock. Or, let's see, those are 2,000 hour. Probably. Okay. I think ideally, I'll probably order these before these are sold out. So we'll get. I'll just go for these United Chemicon ones. All right, for that first power supply. Because they're like $5.43 a piece. Okay. Now, for this power supply, I'll have to go for a smaller cap. So I'm probably going to end up buying those like 850 ones that from Nichicon for this power supply here. Or were those Rubicon? Those might have actually been Rubicon. Actually, those may be about the same thing that are on here. Uh, or actually, for this supply, I may just go down to 85 degrees C to see if I can find a different cap. But anyways, okay. Now that I fixed that mistake, so that I don't accidentally order the wrong caps for none of the power supplies I have, because those I don't. Let's continue on. So, all right. So I got those two. Again, I'm just marking these so I remember what I've identified. Let's see here. So I'm just kind of looking to see if I see common values, because I think I see a bunch of. Yeah, here we go. So I've got three caps. Okay. Okay, so I got three caps here. Let me make sure I get the, or is it four? Nope, it's three. Okay, so I got three caps here. One, two, three. That's C8, C9, and C12. And those are 1 microfarad, 50 volt. Which actually, I probably won't even bother ordering because I usually keep those on hand. In fact, I quite possibly have those. Yeah, I don't think I'll need to order those. I think I've got them on hand, and they're probably still on my workbench right here from where I recapped the video card recently. Because I just grabbed all of my small resistors, and most of them were to the complete wrong size that I needed. But anyways, I'll go ahead and measure them though, because I may still need to order if I can't find them. So it's like, yeah, 5.5 millimeters in diameter. I think they're probably, I could probably almost eyeball. I think that's 10 millimeters high, quite honestly. Hmm. Actually, yeah, I think they're 12 millimeters, but. And actually, the pin spacing is probably, I think, as small as the cap is. I think they're pretty much all about the same pin spacing, so it looks like about 3 millimeters. So, okay. So there's three of those. And then there's also, and those are that Timax brand. And then I also see one. Again, these might also be another value that I have some of. One. One. Two, three, I believe. Yep, and I've got three Let me mark those so I know that I've seen them. I just have to make sure I mark the correct ones. Yep, so we got one on this board here, 2, 3. These are 4.7 microfarad, 50 volt. Those are, I think, C25, C24, and C25. Yay for power supply manufacturers that have 2 components with the same capacitor designator. Wonderful. That's not ambiguous at all. And those actually, I think, are about this. Those are the same size as the 4.7, so I don't even need to measure those. And then we have, let's see, 1, 2, I think 3. I'm having trouble seeing it because of, yep, those are, we have 3, 2 point, or, oh wait. Oh, okay, yeah. Nope. 2, 22 microfarad, 25 volts. And that's going to be C23 and I think it was 13. Those are the same size. But then what was fooling me is then there's this one here at C14 that is 2.2 microfarad, 50 volts. And it's the same size. So I'm definitely, given the fact that there's this 22 and 2.2, and I'm having trouble seeing some of the values, I'll make sure I order extras in case I failed to see a decimal point or saw one where there wasn't. Whoop, and I just found another capacitor that I completely missed because it's in a corner here. And and it's a 4.750, and that's C15. So, okay, that's good. So, yep, I completely missed that one there. But it's another value that I've seen. And actually, C11. Guess what? And there's another one here, C11, that I completely missed. And it's also a 4.7 microfarad, 50 volt. Yes, I like it when there's a lot of capacitors with the same value. It means I can order more of less. So now I have, let's see, it's C22. We have a 1000 microfarad, 16 volt. And it's one of this wonderful Luxon brand. And it is 10 millimeters in diameter by probably like, I don't know, probably 10 to, looks like it's about there, I think 15 millimeters high, because it is off, it's sticking up off the board some. By, let's see, pin spacing is, it's about 6 millimeters. All right, so there's that one there. And then we've got these 3 here that I think are 3 that I'm going to upgrade to 25 volts, because I think these are the 3 bulk caps for the voltage rails. But they are 16 volt, 2200 microfarad. And let's see, those are C19 through C22, 2200 microfarad, 16 volt. Yeah, upgrade those to 25 volt just because I can tell what those are being used for. And it looks like those are 16 millimeters in diameter by eyeballing it, probably 20 to 25 millimeters high, maybe. Yep, I think it's about 26 millimeters high. By pin spacing is, I think it's about 8 millimeters. Okay, excellent. All right, so let me take a quick look, make sure there's not any capacitors that I don't have a mark on, because I put a green mark to green for I got it on my page, not green for they're good. So marked, 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 marked. Yep, I got those that are hidden under the wire bundle. I got those two. I apparently marked the heatsink. Heatsink is present, so those are marked. Those are marked. That one I marked. That one's got a mark. And all right, I'll give a moment for the chat to see. I know you can't see the mark on all of them, but let's see, the ones I can't see the mark on the screen. That one I did mark. This one that's sideways is marked. Let's see, this one's got a mark. These two have a mark. So if anyone sees a cap I missed, well, and then there's a mark under the ones that are under the wire. So anyways, so this power supply has a total of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17 caps. And this is the AOK power supply. So there we go. Am I going to go through ordering caps from Mauser on this supply? No. Joe is debugging keyboard encoders. That does sound like a lot of fun, Joe. Keep at it. The world needs more keyboard encoders. Although you might be debugging some of the same keyboard encoders. I don't know. All right, so that's actually kind of a walkthrough, what we'll call the step-up power supply. It's an AOK power supply made by Go-Ya Company Limited. So, yeah, the small capacitors are probably okay. Probably, but then again, given what this power supply went through, I'll probably replace them all just because. But I make focus on the bigger ones. Granted, the not replacing the smaller ones won't really. It's not like that's going to save much money because I actually probably already have some of those smaller ones anyways. Because those are ones I usually buy a lot of. Because they're those small value 50 volt caps are like used in lots of power supplies. So I actually probably already have some of them, and because I just buy them like 25 or 50 at a time. I get the quantity discount. All right, let's pick another power supply. We'll go for something a little different. All right, so now I figured I would go to what I would consider a name brand power supply, although not necessarily. It's not necessarily that DTK made this power supply. because it's quite possible that they had someone make it for them. But DTK was a computer manufacturer of some... I think they were a fairly large computer manufacturer. I don't know how big, but they made a lot of computers back in the day. I don't know if they still exist. I suspect they were probably eventually bought out by some other company. But anyways, I don't think they were a small company. It's not like this was a mom and pop shop that put their brand name on a power supply. But I will add, they may have not made this power supply. I do find it interesting, though, that I have serial number 655. So, kind of a low serial number. Although there is a second serial number label on the power supply that is BB039204. So this may actually be from whoever OEM'd the supply for DTK. Yeah, DTK made their own motherboards, but I suspect they probably had an OEM design the power supply for them. But anyways, this is what I would call a name brand power supply, because a name brand actually bothered to put their name on it. So what is inside of a name brand power supply from back in the day? And quite honestly, I was, after looking at the TM power supply, I was actually kind of underwhelmed by this power supply. Also note, the auction I bought this from, it was sold as for parts needs repair, so there's no way I'm going to plug this in before a thorough inspection, which includes getting the dead bug carcass out of it. There we go. But honestly, I kind of was underwhelmed by what I saw in here. But then again, that's not necessarily a guarantee that they needed a lot of components to make a good power supply. But there seemed to be more stuff in the... yeah, I know. Compared to the generic... The TM quality generic power supply, there's... I mean, yeah, you're right, Jared. That's kind of why I was underwhelmed. It seems quite barren in here. Because... I mean, sure. I mean, I think here's some of the switching transistors under here. It does seem like they did go through some decent effort to heat sink them. And I mean, there's semiconductors here and here. Again, there's only 200 volt filter high voltage caps, but they are 470 microfarad, so a little more capacitance there. The fan is... okay. Yeah, so it's a... yeah, Panasonic. Basically, it's a Panasonic fan. So, okay. I mean, it's going to be a loud fan because of the type it is. In fact, is that a... Okay, it is a 12-volt DC brushless fan, but given how big the hub is, I probably will replace the fan just out of the fact that that's going to be a noisy fan. I don't know what DTK computer this came out of. There is a fault with it, because it sure seems like well, okay. The eBay auction listed it, and it was pretty convincing that there was a fault with it. Then again, could it be some, yeah, I'd kind of be weary of this power supply. I may actually not recap it, just because, I don't know, this may be an older design, quite honestly. And I think this one's the one the eBay auction said that there's a fault with it. Now, granted, could that be an insurance policy on their side because they really don't want returns and they're just trying to like, disclaim it as it's bad, so bad, total bad, you need to be an experienced technician to repair it. I don't know. Some of their other auctions didn't have that language, so there may actually be a fault with this power supply. I got it, though, because I wanted an example reference of a name brand power supply, and yeah, this is what I saw. I'm kind of leading towards not going through the trouble of identifying caps for it right offhand, because I'm actually wondering if there's actually a problem with one of the semiconductors under here or one of these semiconductors. I am trying to see if I see like a diode or something that's blown up. The fuse is intact. That's weird. But yeah, maybe the diode bridge. The thing is, I don't see anything that's obviously wrong with it, which kind of scares me for a power supply that was sold as, like, pretty much you're going to die if you plug this in and you're not an experienced technician. I mean, okay, granted, that was a little bit of over dramatization, because it was pretty much you better be an experienced technician and be prepared to work on this thing, because it doesn't work. Oh, it so doesn't work. But yeah, inadequate fan, barren power supply. I mean, there is some dust in it, but quite honestly, it seems like an awfully little amount of dust for the number of hours that I would have thought something like this might have been running. This actually might have failed quite prematurely. There is a filter cap on the incoming power connector. It is not a REFA, but there actually is a filter cap down in there. So that is an improvement over the trademark one. Well, although it did have filter caps on the main board. Oh, and here's another safety cap. So it does have safety cap. Oh, actually, I think it has 3, because I think that's one as well, right there. I am tempted, though, just out of curiosity, to pull the heat sinks off here. But then I'm going to go grab another power supply, because I'm not actually going to... I don't think I'm actually going to recap it. This was more of I figured I would compare and contrast while I was at it, and this was like the one that I was thinking would be a really amazing, high-quality design that might be worth fixing. And in reality, when I opened it up and saw it, I'm like, this looks like a much lower quality design than I would have expected for this being in a DTK computer. I don't know that I really want to fix it. Okay, so what's under that heatsink? There are 2. Okay, I'll give it. I think those are 2 transistors. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool. The pins on the silkscreen are labeled base, collector, and emitter. So those are going to be power transistors. But now, Jeremy, you might... This might be the power supply I do that to. You might actually convince me to do a small form factor or some sort of mod on this one, only because this one was sold as having a fault, and it seems like it is just an inadequate design. And actually, I'm kind of looking at one of the transistors, and oh, never mind. That's a shadow. I was about to say, I think I found the fault, and the transformer looked burned, but no, it's just a shadow. Yeah, this might be the one where you might actually convince me to do a small form factor mod on it, Jeremy, or some sort of a mod, because this is kind of not that impressive, honestly. And even though it's a DTK, it's not like this is I'm not going to prove anything by recapping this one, and it probably needs repaired. It's a low serial number, but DTK probably made a bazillion of these, and they're probably out there somewhere. The fan is inadequate. The switch... Okay, the switch at least has a... The switch has a decent funk to it. Although the switch body is kind of bent, so I'm going to have to bend it back into place. So that may be another sign that I don't know that I want to switch high voltage with it. Okay, so these are like rectifying diodes. I don't see any problems there. Yeah, I don't see an obvious sign of damage to this power supply. Unless these caps have leaked, because there is something weird on the board. But yeah, this is kind of one of those. Okay, this was a name brand power supply to kind of compare to those other two, and this is like even less impressive than the no-name one. Yeah, the no-name one came with the computer I bought at VCF East. The super dirty one I want to fix to show that I can fix it, just because of how dirty. Repair challenge. The super dirty one's my repair challenge. The one that came from VCF East is like the one that came with that case. And it actually looks decent. The more I looked at it, the more it looked decently built, especially when I saw this one. This is like, okay. Yeah, I guess I'll, I mean, maybe someday I might look at it. I mean, at least the wires are decent gauge. But I may use these wire, or well, I guess, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I'll let you know, Jeremy. As long as the procedure doesn't start with remove every component from the original circuit board. Because if I'm going to do a mod like that, I am just going to remove the original circuit board and scrap it. I am not going to desolder every component off of it to have a mounting source. I would rather just find a piece of polycarbonate to mount or something else to mount the power supply to. Because it would take me so long to desolder these components. Belt sanding them off is also out of the question. Sorry. But yeah, I'll let you know. Anyways, yeah, there we go. The completely unimpressive name brand power supply. So I guess it goes to show you, just because it has a name brand on it doesn't mean it's that great. I sure hope that they may be improved later power supplies. So yeah, there we go. So if you were thinking, why in the world would I even bother ordering caps for the trademark power supply? It's so that I could apparently get green marker all over myself that I got on my workbench somehow. Well, yeah, that's weird. Well, you can't see it because I can't bend my arm in that right direction, but yeah, I got green marker on my arm. Great. Yeah, I was gonna say I might scavenge these connectors to fix another power supply, but yeah, if I do a small form factor mod, then I would want these connectors because they are. I will at least give it one thing: these wires are an appropriate gauge wire. That they are in good condition, and they probably, well, they are decent connectors. So, are they actually Molex brand? I don't know. But they are at least, they're in good shape. So yeah, if I do a small form factor mod, I'll keep these connectors with it. I have enough other power supplies I can steal connectors from to fix the because I've got the one I got from VCF East. There's a one of the power leads has the connectors cut off of it, so I do want to steal leads from some power supply to fix that, but it won't be this one. Okay, that's a name brand supply for some comparison. All right, I'm just trying to figure out which power supply I was going to pull the bench next. So I actually have another DTK power supply that was in a case I bought on eBay. That although I think I have enough evidence that the computer was possibly had water in it that I don't think I'm going to try to recap that power supply. Now, I am going to try to repair the motherboard because it's a Visa Local Bus motherboard, but I don't think I'm going to try to repair that other DTK power supply because it possibly had water damage, so I'm going to ignore it for now. I think I got enough other AT power supplies like this one here that might be a better shot at repairing. I've seen the voltage blaster, Jeremy, and my only problem with the voltage blaster is it takes one ISA slot. For some of my build ideas, that actually is a problem. So, this is a power supply that I bought on, well, okay. This is a power supply that I did not buy on eBay. I've actually not opened this. This is actually the power supply I received when I bought what I thought was going to be a new in-box CompUSA 250 watt AT power supply. And while at first I thought, oh, well, CompUSA just branded the box and not the power supply inside of it, if you notice, this isn't the 250 watt power supply, so this is actually the dude's original power supply from his computer that he apparently bought the power supply from CompUSA to replace, stuck his old power supply in the box along with the original purchase receipt, stuck it in a closet for years. In fact, I think it'd be 17 years to be exact, based on the date that was on the purchase receipt. And then he sells it on eBay as new in box CompUSA power supply. So yeah, when I pointed out in the let's just say that that is like one of the times where when you send me something that is like so out of line with what your description said, I will usually go straight to filing a return with eBay, because the thing is, I looked at the return address on the package, and I looked at the receipt from CompUSA. And while it was very hard to read parts of it because the thermal paper degrades over time, I could very clearly make out that the name on the receipt, the name on the credit card that was used to buy that CompUSA power supply was the same name, albeit I guess I can't totally prove that it could have been the person's son or something, because it's possible the junior and senior weren't on the return address label and the credit card, but still, they had the same name. Same city, so the return address was in the same city as the CompUSA location was. I actually managed to find a list of CompUSA locations to confirm that, yes, they were, even though the city names were the same, they were basically the same place. So, yeah, when presented with the fact that I noted in the return that, by the way, there was the original purchase receipt in the box with this old power supply, and the name that was on the return label was the same name that purchased the power supply, and we'll just say that I got a fairly quick refund. I think he was probably embarrassed by quite possibly was embarrassed for not checking the package. But yeah, that so I didn't buy this power supply. It was the old junky power supply that was retained and not the one I thought I was buying. I guess maybe next time I could have looked a little closer on the picture and seen that it didn't appear as if there was any shrink wrap on the package. But then again, not all retailers shrink wrap the packages. Sometimes they just like sealed them, and I didn't notice in the pictures that were in the auction that the box wasn't sealed. I mean, yeah, there was no shrink wrap on it, but I wasn't able to tell that there wasn't a seal on the box either. So quite honestly, I don't know what I'm going to find in here, and this may it is so loaded with dust. I could speculate as to what the failure cause of this power supply was. Chronic lack of dusting. So this is an Enlight power supply, which actually I think was a I don't know, respectable power supplies. I don't know that they were necessarily high quality. So what do I see in here? I see a lot of dust. This is not as bad as that other power supply, but this is actually kind of, yeah, never dusted. Let's see here. Actually, this is so dusty, I want to sneeze. So kind of looking at the quality here, these are United Chemicon capacitors. Again, 200 volt rated. I guess they're assuming that there won't be voltage spikes. The other capacitors, though, from what I can see, look to be cheap ones. Yeah, I think this is the hallmark of I don't see anything right offhand that screams why this. Jeremy's saying this brand was mediocre at best. Well, they use name brand caps for the high voltage caps, but yeah, that is something a mediocre brand would do, to say, hey, I mean, even that step up supply could have been a mediocre brand at best, but at least they're 200 volt, 330 microfarad cap, so I guess I could give it a whirl. Although I'm wondering if, oh, I'm wondering if this got replaced just because this fan is crunchy. Yeah, if it weren't for the fact that it's 10:30 at night, I would probably go take this outside with the leaf blower. But I don't want my neighbors to complain about me blowing leaves at 10:30. How in the world can I be blowing leaves at 10:30 when I can't even see where they are? I don't see any obvious damage. But I'm also like, is this the grade of power supply that's actually worth saving? Especially considering it. I mean, I have nothing in it because I got a full refund. Oh, plus there was a bonus heatsink in the box. Yeah, the fan is like, yeah, this I wonder if this was replaced because the fan is just like loaded with dust. It was probably so noisy. Assuming the fan actually would spin under power. Which in that case, I guess maybe it might actually be fixable. I don't know. I could use another AT power supply. Yes, I know I could replace it with an ATX power supply and get the power lead that replaces the switch on the case. And what can you say, though? I do like fixing things too. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Hey, Bruce, welcome. I opened up a mystery power supply from eBay because it wasn't what the seller said it was, and when confronted with the evidence, they immediately refunded me before I could ship it back to them. So I took that as an admission of I don't want to pay return shipping to get that back because I am so embarrassed by what I did. It's probably actually a mediocre brand power supply. I don't know if it's worth repairing, but sometimes I repair things that aren't worth repairing just to see if it can be done. I'm trying to get an idea of why this might have been replaced in the first place back in 2006, other than the fan is so loaded with dust. And it's quite possible this thing was so noisy that it was replaced due to noise. I don't see any damaged components. Although there's so much dust in it. I mean, it's quite possible that the capacitors have leaked in the meantime. Well, what was the manufacturer date of this? Would this have been... Well, if the serial number is any indication, it might have been made in 97. Okay, well, the Transformer's got a 97 date on it, so 97... I don't know. I'm kind of torn. This thing is so dirty. Yeah, a nice air compressor would make that easier, but I don't have an air compressor. I know that some people just say go to Harbor Freight and buy the cheap one, but I would rather have a slightly nicer air compressor. Because quite honestly, I don't think there's a corner of my basement where I could put an air compressor and you wouldn't hear it when it kicks on. Besides, this thing's so dusty, I don't think I'd want to... I think I'd want to take it outside to blow it out. Oh, wait a minute. There's a safety cap there. Well, it's not a reefa. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on the... Did they replace this just because the fan was loud? Because it probably was. Or did they replace it because it actually failed? Due to inadequate cooling, perhaps, which would probably mean... Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, that's an in-light power supply. It is loaded with dust. I wouldn't blame you if you can't see anything. The main caps are United Chemicon. Everything else appears to be like a JP brand that I've never heard of. Jeremy, the canned compressed air works great for all of 2 seconds, and then it's lousy, and it's like really expensive per can. I have some, but I'm saving it for something that needs a light dusting, not an exorcism. Granted, that would be a dust exorcism at the moment, but yeah. This is, this needs more than canned air can give. I mean, it kind of looks like it could be... Well, let me put it this way. I'm not going to plug this in until I actually could clearly inspect it. I mean, the fuse isn't blown. I don't see anything damaged. But then again, I usually like to be able to see everything. Yeah. Sloopy says, get a truck inner tube, fill it with air, and put a tube on it. Yeah. Yeah, I usually like to inspect something like this, where it's kind of like you don't know why they replaced it. I mean, on the one hand, if this if I bought a new power supply and it was replacing one that had completely failed, then I don't know why I wouldn't have just tossed the power supply. But then again, humans can be really weird, and we keep things that we think that, oh, maybe someday I'll fix this. So it could be they kept a power supply that didn't work at all, but maybe they kept it as a backup because it was just the fan was so loud. You know, I think I like that theory. They kept it as a backup because they replaced it because the fan was so loud. And you know, I could probably prove that if it weren't for the fact that the fan was... Did they really... they really did solder the fan onto the... the fan doesn't have a modular connection, of course. Yes, that's how cheap power supply brands cut costs. They don't have connectors on the fan. So therefore, I can't just jam this fan. I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just test my theory by unplugging the fan, putting my benchtop supply on the bench, plugging the fan into it, turning it on, and immediately having everyone on the audience go, ew, turn that off. It's really loud. Why are you hurting our ears so much? But they soldered the fan into the board, which means I will have to desolder it to test that theory. Well, there's one other way to test the theory. It will involve finding the sacrificial loads. One moment, please, while I attempt to find my sacrificial loading devices. Some YouTubers actually have dead hard drives to do this with. I have a not-so-dead hard drive to do this with, and it's actually probably not really enough of a load. Yeah, it's really not enough of a load. I need more than one. Do I not have anything? Let me see. Do I have a motherboard that's likely toast? Oh yeah, I do have a motherboard that, yes. It's an AT board. I declared it scrap. That'll provide some more load to it. Alright, so let's see here. And if I really wanted an extra spicy test, I could plug the power leads in backwards to the motherboard. Alright. So this motherboard is a socket 7 motherboard that I tried to repair on a stream, and then afterwards sometime decided that it just really wasn't worth trying to repair it anymore because my repair didn't make it any better, and I think it actually made it worse. So I stripped it for parts, and add insult to injury, I think the RAM that was on it, I think the RAM might be bad that was on it, so I think the only thing I'm going to get out of it is possibly a video card that's okay. Alright, so let's see, the power switch is turned on. My smart plug is turned off. Alright, we will plug this quantum hard drive in that actually does still work, but it might not work for much longer. Let me plug AC power in. And then, let me find my iPhone. And I'm going to make sure there's no obvious shorts on my desk, because then I'm going to do the chicken thing, and I'm going to go behind my safety blast zone device, which is called a wall in the basement. So anyways, because I'm a big chicken, and I'm not going to be sitting here when I turn this power supply on. Yeah. Anyways, counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, I think that power supply's dead. Or I failed to turn the switch on one. Okay, let me plug a voltmeter in for science. I didn't hear anything. I don't think you all saw anything. All right. Let me see. Ground, power. I don't think the quantum hard drive kicked on. Oh, I had the switch in the wrong position. That wasn't helpful. I don't think I actually turned it on. Never mind. All right. We'll try that again. Let me get my voltmeter leads that actually will stay in place. We'll try that again. Well, I mean, I had a 50-50 shot of guessing correctly which was the on position on the switch, and, well, apparently I guessed wrong. Okay, well, I'll put this in a spot where it's visible. All right, I'll plug this into one of the wires. There we go. All right. Trying that again. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That sounds actually exactly like I thought it would sound. 12 volts, the 12 volts fine. That's good. I actually can't hear the quantum hard drive over the fan noise. 5 volt is 5.2 volts. That's actually pretty good. And now for ASMR on Justin's stream. This is what happens when you don't clean your fan. Yeah, remove those old batteries. And please, dust your fans. Okay, I think I know why they replaced this power supply. I think they replaced this power supply because the fan was incredibly noisy. But it works. Okay, so maybe it might not be that far of a, well, I guess maybe it's not outside the realm of possibilities that I'll recap it someday. Or actually, maybe the first start is just replace the fan and maybe let it run for a little while to make sure it's actually potentially worth rescuing. Yeah. Oh, Jeremy says replace the fan and call it good. That may actually not be a bad idea. Because quite honestly, kind of maybe dust it out, replace the fan, and then if there's no sign of leakage, then maybe call it good for now. Because yeah, maybe it's not a entirely remarkable power supply, but it looks like it was made in '97. And that might put it outside of any of the capacitor plague eras enough that, yeah, maybe I'll just, maybe I will just replace the fan at first and give that a shot. And dust it out. So, yeah, alright. I mean, after all, though, that does give me that still gives me 2 power supplies to recap. One to maybe give the power supply a little better quality, and power quality, and the other because it's a repair challenge. It gives me one power supply that maybe I'll fix in the future by just replacing its guts entirely with a modern power supply and I guess a voltage blaster to give it negative 5 volts. I guess I could do that all internally. And then a power supply that I can just try replacing the fan and calling it good. Because quite honestly, given the evidence, I think they kept. I think the evidence shows that they kept the power supply as a backup in case their new one failed. Because I guess putting up with a noisy fan is better than not being able to use your computer. But I don't think I'd be able to work very long with that fan in its state of noise. So. Okay, I think I could be happy with that. And I mean, I do have another one of those XT style power supplies that I didn't even bring on the bench, but it's kind of somewhere. It's better than the DTK supply, but I don't need. I think I'll hold it for a slow a slow time when I don't have something else to work on, because I think it's untested in the eBay seller since the word untested, so that could mean that it has been tested and it in no way, shape, or form worked. It could be that the seller just didn't have the capability to test it. It's like Schrodinger's cat, except it's Schrodinger's eBay purchase. It's both working and not working until you actually test it. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, and I highly suspect that the person that sold me this power supply is a brand new in box CompUSA power supply. Needless to say, probably once they realized what they did, they probably don't want it back. I will hold on to it and not immediately repair it in case they're like, "Where's my power supply?" And I'll gladly send it back to them with their return label. Yeah, it wouldn't take much better. Oh, yeah, I guess I'll go pull that other XT power supply on the bench. Because it'll show you that, yeah, it doesn't take much. Okay, I think this one is a top power supply, given the note the seller put on it. And even though it doesn't have the top power brand, if you look up this UL listing number, I think it does map to what might not be really a remarkable power supply manufacturer, but so just to give some comparison. So you saw the one that I got at VCF East, and it actually seems to be decent construction even if it's completely generic, no name. Then you saw the DTK one that was quite barren inside. And then you see this one where it actually seems like it's a slightly better construction design, even if there still is plenty of space inside of it. There is a safety cap on the incoming power, so there's that. There's a couple other safety caps here too. The switch is nice and thunky. Oh, yeah. The fan is an Oriental computer fan. It was made in Japan. Oh, made by Sunon. It's a Sunon fan. Okay. Okay. A decent. There's dust on these caps. Let's see here. So these are Omat's brand. Shocker. They're 200 volts rated. Yeah. Some of these are Nikon. Nicon caps. I think it's kind of a generic brand. I mean, it does kind of seem to be a little better. Yeah, it's kind of, this is between the DTK and that generic one. I still kind of think the generic one's actually the best of the three. Short of actually taking this board out and looking at the underside. Yeah, it's got a thunky switch. It's a decent wiring. I mean, there's no Berg power connectors on it. I mean, I don't need 3 of these power supplies, so I'm just going to recap the first one because, quite honestly, the reason why I wanted to recap it is after I saw these other two, I'm like, I think that original one I had might actually be the best of the 3 in terms of build quality. I kind of really got to thinking that I think that first one might really be like a generic white box power supply, though of some quality that was just like I don't know, a generic power supply that computer shops could sell, and it was probably generic just because, I don't know, they didn't put a brand on it. But actually, it seemed like, I'm wondering if it's actually a clone of the IPM power supply, honestly. Whereas these other two might actually be original designs. So, I don't know. Anyways, am I going to sit through and write down the caps for this power supply tonight? No. I don't really have a reason to recap it. I don't remember if this one works or not. Someday I may, I mean, am I going to get rid of that DTK power supply that I really probably am not going to bother using? No. I might do a video someday of the video ideas I have of just kind of comparing 3 XT power supplies and how the, yeah, build quality varies wildly. And getting a name brand doesn't really guarantee everything. Because honestly, I think that DTK power supply was probably built to a cost. Not, and that's probably why it was so barren. It was built to a cost. This power supply actually seems to be, I don't know, a little better. Yeah, I think the first one actually is the best of the 3. It actually seemed like it might actually be a clone of something and they just copied someone else's design. Yeah. So I mean, am I gonna gut this one? No, I'll hold on to it. You never know when I might need another one of these side power switch power supplies. Also, the other thing about this one, the switch isn't like bent. That DTK power supply, I think someone hit the switch while the case was off because the switch is actually bent a little. Or I think the metal case is bent. I don't think the switch is bent. Which, if I put a small form factor case in that DTK power supply and it's just using soft power, no big deal if the switch is a little bent and I unbend it, because it'd just be a soft power switch. But anyways, yeah, just thought I'd pull this on the bench for a comparison. So I think, because I'm not going to go till midnight tonight, because I've done my main objectives. However, I did thought of one other thing I would do. And yes, there is a power supply in the case, so we'll call this my power supply stream. Actually, I think I already did. Let me go get one other thing. It's a brand you might recognize. Yeah, maybe I'll turn one of those into a bench power supply. But I prefer to put my computer power supplies in computers. Especially when I have computers in cases that need them. So, this, in some way, shape, or form, will be making another appearance. In fact, I'll preview it. If you're wondering why I got these bags sitting over here, it's because I've got bags of parts that are for one of the repairs I need to do to this. Alright. But yes, you'll notice this case, because yes, I dragged the whole case over here, although I've removed things from it. This case actually had a power supply in it. It actually had the original processor in it. Because right there's the DTK sticker they put on the bottom of the processor. Which I believe, if I am reading the writing on the bottom of the chip, it does say I-50 on the bottom. But I do not know, because this heatsink is glued on it, I do not know if this is an SX or a DX. And I do not know if it's a SX or a DX or the SX2 or DX2. Because that would require me to remove the label that's on the bottom. Then I would actually be able to see the Intel part. And actually, I presume this is an Intel chip. Yeah, because I can tell it says I. Even though I can't see the I can see the bottom of it. So I'm pretty sure this is an Intel. But I don't know if it's like what one it is. I could try to read the jumpers on the motherboard, but there's bigger problems with the motherboard. It actually had the hard drive in it, believe it or not, despite the fact that there is like a government property sticker somewhere on the computer. So I'm actually surprised that what appears to be the original hard drive, I mean, it's got a yellow sticker on it. It is possible that maybe the yellow sticker means it was a warranty replacement part, but I mean, it's a Seagate drive of some sort. Does it work? I don't know. I haven't bothered trying it yet. I think that's Seagate. I don't know what size it is, because this is one of those drives. There's no sticker on either end, so it's a mystery. I haven't bothered removing it from this metal plate. This computer has bigger problems. This power supply, I probably, I may not try to repair it, because this computer has bigger problems. This might be an indication and a hint of what the bigger problems might be. Here's another preview of the case condition. So, yeah, I might be able to use heat to get the heatsink off, but, I mean, yeah, there's the back of the power supply. Now you can probably see why I'm probably not going to even bother with doing anything to that power supply. Because I'm actually not convinced that water didn't get into that at some point. Which, quite honestly, that's probably game over for that power supply at that point. I mean, I could maybe fix it. I don't mind trying to remove rust from the case, but to get a AT case, I probably still overpaid for this, but yeah, I don't think I probably will not attempt to. I mean, maybe I will pull this off and just see what it looks like. Not tonight though, because I just realized I'd have to remove the faceplate to get that power supply out. Although maybe that's not as hard as I think it'll be, because I think it's just supposed to pop off. Okay, we'll pull this power supply out in a moment. But actually, this is a preview for a repair that I'll probably... Yeah, if it didn't get wet, it got really damp. That's for sure, Sloopy. Alright. There is a reason why that chip is not in the socket. It's actually a reason why neither of those chips is in the socket. Probably should give you a clue that, Okay, there's the keyboard BIOS chip. Yeah, if you're thinking those legs look like they have a hint of green on them, yes, you are correct. The BIOS chip, luckily, I mean, it has a hint of green. I'm hoping it's fine. Although I think I can download the BIOS for this computer, so... but there's actually bigger problems. And it's not immediately evident, but, there was, like, massive corrosion on the sims that were in here. And in the process of removing the sims, I'm fairly sure that, that several of these sim slots are trashed because of how much corrosion was on them. The battery I removed so that I could neutralize things as best as I could. In fact, actually, I pretty much immersed this whole board in vinegar, if that says anything. Probably not the best, but that's how far the corrosion went. I pulled this chip out to inspect under it and inspect the socket. And yes, if you're thinking that there's pins that are missing in that socket, you are correct. They actually came out with the chip. So I got to replace that socket, but I got to remove it to inspect under it. If you notice those blue lines on the top, I've already determined those are broken traces. I probably should replace this socket just because. Although it looks pretty good, but I probably need to remove it to inspect. Or I will potentially need to remove it because I need to remove this because it's this ISO slot is damaged. It also has a greenish hue, but it's actually like the one of the pins is mangled, and then this ISO slot here is green too. I've got replacement sims already. I actually ordered them brand new from Mouser. You can actually still order those. You can still order 72-pin sim sockets from Mouser. Yeah, I could. I've got a dead motherboard. I could pull them off as well, but I just ordered new ones because I mean, I'm already going to have to desolder. There's 72 pins. There's 72, 144, 288. So there's 288 pins there, and then I got 56 pins, and then what, 96 or something like that. Yeah. Oh, and then all these blue dots you see down there, those are more broken traces that I was able to quickly identify as broken. So this is one of my repair challenges for later in the week. Now, I could actually look at these jumpers and figure out what processor that was, because that processor was in the socket. But what would be the fun in that? Although I still probably will, just out of curiosity. So, yeah, this is probably my repair challenge for next Thursday. And that's why I ordered a big thing of Chip Quick, because I am going to use the low melt solder to remove all of those, to remove the 4 sim sockets, this chip socket, and these 2 ISO slots. I'm going to low melt solder them off because I don't want to risk any damage from trying to desolder them with the vacuum pump, which hasn't been behaving lately. So anyways, yeah, this is my repair challenge for next week. I don't know. Maybe I might decode those jumpers and post a channel supporter preview of whatever this that processor is based on those jumper settings. So, yeah, this is the DTK board that was in this case. It's going to be a challenge. Now, if it starts to look like it's going to be anywhere close to a 5-year repair, I have already decided that Steve can keep that record. That I will give up on this board much sooner than 5 years. Because while it is a Visa Local Bus motherboard, it's not like Yes, Loopy says use a propane torch. Yeah, it's not like there aren't other VESA local bus boards out there. I have yet to find anything special about that board that says, "Oh no, the world can't lose it." So I'm going to use it as a repair challenge. But if should the board become irreparable, I will call it much sooner than 5 years. All right, there, I've already said it. There are other things that I will try to repair that I would be willing to spend long times on. That board is not one of them. But I will at least give it a college try. Also, if I ruin the board removing things, then I'm not going to try soldering those connectors back on because they're not expensive, but they're not cheap. Because I actually bought the Amphenol ones. So they're actually the good connectors. All right, so I'm trying to see if I can remove this faceplate so I can unscrew the switch so I can remove this power supply. Although, honestly, if I just remove the 4 switches, I can slide it forward and at least remove the cover and we can inspect the inside of it. Maybe that's good enough for tonight. All right, we're going to call that good enough. I don't need to completely remove this power supply. I just need to get access to the 4 screws. And to do that, I need a better screwdriver than that one. Hold, please, while I find the... There we go. Yeah, let me not try to use the Phillips heads. Let me use the sides, because these screws are quite rusty. I'll probably... these screws are so rusty, but so common, I will not be trying to rescue them. I will probably not attempt to repair this power supply, given its exterior condition. I mean, unless I open it and it's, like, clearly obvious that it's external moisture damage only, but it will have to be super clear. And even then, I probably won't bother because, again, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll hold on to it because maybe I gut it and replace it with modern internals because this case is probably fine. But yeah, I will not try to repair this power supply. I will already just say there's very, given its external condition and the way things looked on this case, and the way it actually almost looked like the Varda leaked, and it also had water damage on the motherboard. Yeah, I doubt there's anything that I'm going to see in here short of the PCB inside this saying, like, serial number 1, hand signed by name of DTK CEO here, and even then it's probably not going to get repaired. In that case, I'll just sell it as rare signed by CEO you've probably never heard of. Came from water damaged computer. I'll use some of those same dire warnings that other DTK power supply auction used. Like the abandon all hope, ye who purchased this power supply. You need to be a black belt in power supply repair karate to even think about attempting to repair. Mere mortals need not attempt to think about repairing this supply. You will fail. How am I doing for the dire eBay ad listing? Oh, well, that's actually not quite as bad as I thought it would be. Okay, well, the top of it is up. Okay. There's all right, it's gonna be hard to see on camera, but there is the evidence of water ingress right here. And if that's not water, I don't know what it is. But anyways, that definitely looks like there was a liquid on this side panel. So that is strike 2. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Yep. Strike 3. You're out. I will not be trying to repair this for sure. All right. It's going to be hard to see. Let me see if I can point to it with the spudger. You get up. Oh, it's off camera. Hold, please. You see the fuse? Unfortunately, the fuse is soldered to this board, but you kind of see how it looks like the fuse had water in it at one point. Yeah, I think the fuse had water on it, or possibly in it. Yeah, that's definitely yeah, that's definitely oh yeah, you can actually see it on this side of the power supply. Yep, I think some of that is the factory flux, but it kind of looks like this part of the board was wet. Yeah. Yeah, this power supply's been wet. And yeah, you're probably saying, well, but don't you put things in the ultrasonic cleaner? Well, yeah, I do. I do put things in the ultrasonic cleaner, but that's also I put things in the ultrasonic cleaner, but they're not powered up, potentially powered up and turned on, and it's under what I would call controlled circumstances. I don't know what the nature of this water damage is. I do not know if it happened while this computer was off or on. It is very possible it happened while it was on and then put into storage. Not surprisingly, the fuse is actually open. Yeah, the fuse blew, but I think there's water in it. So the fuse has blown. So yeah, it is quite possible this was on when the water entered it, which is actually kind of a scary thought. But yeah, but the thing is, I don't know what the nature of this water damage was. I do not know how long potentially components were wet. I don't know. I don't know if it was clean water. I don't know if it was highly mineralized water. I don't know how long things sat in the water. I don't know if it was off or on when it got wet. With the fuse blown, it is quite possible it might have been on when it got wet. So actually repairing that motherboard could be a very interesting challenge indeed. Yeah, it's kind of one of those, there's enough questions about this power supply, and I realized you probably can't see what I'm looking at, and that's the wrong zoom. I'm like, okay. Actually, it could be the capacitors leaking, yes. It could be those capacitors leaking, that is very true. Anyways, this is kind of one of those water damage. I don't know the history. The fuse is blown. If this sat in water long enough, I mean, I don't know why the power supply case isn't more rusted. Well, but the outside is. I'm like, okay, I think this is one of those where I don't like need kind of one of those. It's really not worth fixing. Hey, Dave. Welcome. Yeah, so this is kind of one of those. It's not really worth fixing. I mean, maybe this is another one where maybe I'll gut it, and I don't know. It might be cool to put one of those like Pico PSUs in something. Put a nice fan, put a Pico PSU. Maybe make a 12-volt powered desktop computer. Hey, you could use it in your car. But yeah, it's kind of one of those. Yeah, there's just enough questions about what happened to this computer that I think I will just um probably not bother trying to repair that power supply. It's not special enough. Hey, 1-bit. Anyways, that's the power supply that was in the case that came with the motherboard. That I'm going to actually try to repair the motherboard. It's actually, I mean, it's a Visa Local Bus motherboard. It's actually worth trying to save. This case on the other, this power supply on the other hand, I'm like, there's just enough questions about what happened exactly, and there's enough other things I could do instead of repair this power supply and still be able to put a computer in this case that I'm just going to pass on it. It's just not worth the not worth it. Would like to know what that processor is. Yeah. 1-bit Fever Dream says, need a 1 nanofarad cap. Just put 1,000 Rifa caps in parallel with each other of 1 picofarad each. I think in that case I'll just order 1 nanofarad caps. So now the one thing I can say though, this hard drive doesn't look like it got wet. So maybe the liquid in the case was just limited to the back of the case. I mean, I actually would maybe try to power this up, other than that was a really weird blob of dirt on one of the tantalum caps. I mean, yeah, I'll probably make sure that the tantalums aren't shorted on it, but I actually would try to power this up. Uh, totally on board with that. I'd be doubly on board with it if Trident made hard drive controller chips, but in that case, the drive would probably be dead and beyond repair. And yes, to someone's point that said that looked like a Maxtor drive, I think you are correct. I think that actually is Maxtor. I forgot what they were the ones that used those funny plastic lids. So, yeah, don't know exactly which i50 processor this is. I could probably try to use heat to get it off, but I think I would rather not because I'm afraid I'll damage it if I try to remove that heatsink. Because could be it could be epoxied on. So I think I'll go for the save it in case I can actually get the motherboard working. But it's going to be a challenge. But that's what I'm going to do next Thursday. Now, of course, I would probably be remiss if I didn't at least preview what Thursday's stream is. So, all right, to close the stream out, let me get this off the bench and let me grab the preview of Thursday's stream. If I can find where I set the board down. Hold please while I try to remember where I put it to keep it safe. Because that would have been too easy for me to have put it back where I kept putting it. See, that's the Quadra 650. There's nothing wrong with it. That. Oh yeah, it's a motherboard I haven't tested yet. Oh, all right. Okay, I think. Oh, here it is. I put it in plain sight where I would obviously overlook it. For y'all Mac fans out there, I do like to also work on Macs, as well as PCs, as well as other computers. I have a battery-bombed Macintosh 2CI logic board. So yes, Bruce, thank you for sending me your pinout chart. It may come in handy. This board does seems to be in better shape than it could have been. However, the true test will be when I actually probably remove the oscillator. And there's probably a little bit I'm going to have to do here. So I really don't know. There could be broken traces here. We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a Maxwell battery here. The battery holder, well, I mean, I just bought this as a parts 2CI board, so yeah, it did not have the battery holder on it when I got it. It probably, from the looks of it, it probably completely fell off and was rolling around the computer it was in. Because it kind of looks like it, yeah, it was probably one of those Maxwell batteries in the battery holder. The battery swelled and no removing it from the battery holder, but yeah. The oscillator is, you are not imagining things. It is floating right now. It is actually so corroded that I had to double check through other sources what value it was. Also, there actually should be a crystal here. And all that there is are the 2 pins. I will not be testing this first because without this, there is no way it will work. I think it does have to have that oscillator to even do anything. Now, could you convince me to replace this and then try to power it up? Yeah, sure. I can be easily convinced. But I do believe I do need to replace this and this. Because I'm pretty sure that without this oscillator, it will not be able to do anything. And I suspect without this crystal, it probably will fail out fairly quickly. Yeah, the crystal is gone. Also, it is possible that there is some trace damage here, though, because that's where the battery would have been. So I don't know. I could be incredibly lucky. I also do know that there is a lot of solder mask damage, but you might have seen where I have already done some investigative solder mask removal, which is what convinced me to even try to repair this in the first place. And at least from these areas where the solder mask looks weird, it appears as if that is actually just solder mask damage, but I could be wrong. Some of this could actually be trace damage. And the thing is, I'm going to have to remove all that anyways. I do know that after I cleaned it, there's some weird deposits around the SIM sockets. So, and again, more of that solder mask damage where at least a little bit of investigation reveals, well, those traces do appear to be intact. Could this board be hopeless? Might I relegate this to parts in case I need the parts to fix my other 2CI board? Like these nice, this is why I bought it. I bought it because this part of the board is completely intact. And I know Bruce sent some chips, but I keep thinking that maybe the new bus transceivers might need replaced. Oh, cool. These were actually made by RCA. Or Apple. Interesting. Well, I knew RCA made chips, but I'd never seen RCA chips in an Apple before. Also, I think this is actually a fairly early 2CI logic board. Because you're wondering why I've got tape here. What's to cover the window of an EEPROM. Apple normally put mask ROMs there, but these are actually all for EEPROMs. So I think this is actually an early logic board. But I don't know. I don't have a way of confirming that because I bought just the logic board. I never had the computer. But anyways, yeah. So there were some spare chips here. I thought, well, for I think I paid $15 for it. I'm like, okay, sure, it's spare chips. So yeah, it's a 2CI board, Mac 2CI. Also, I do believe there is a transistor missing here beside this capacitor. Probably no big surprise. Luckily, I think that is just a transistor, and I now have some spares on hand for whatever that is. Just a generic NPN or a PNP. If I can get this to show enough signs of life that it's rescuable, I'll recap it. But for now, it's yeah. I gotta I'm not gonna recap it right away, but I do have a cap kit on hand because, well, I probably will eventually use it anyways. Okay, good. I've got the 50 megahertz oscillators. I got a scare earlier today when I dawned on me. I thought they were 40 megahertz, but nope, they're 50 megahertz. Sloopy would like to have the challenge of the board. Well, if I give up with it, Sloopy, then it's yours next for the challenge because you asked first. So there we go. I got 32.768 kilohertz crystals. I've got the RAM chips that actually go to something else that I'm sure I will forget are in this box again and then wonder where they are. Actually bought several different kinds of crystals because I wasn't sure what type. I also bought surface mount crystals because I was silly and bought the wrong thing. Oh no, they're not surface mount. They're just a really weird case. And oh yeah, I bought lots of crystals because I wasn't sure what capacitance was needed. So anyways, Thursday, I'm going to start to try to repair this board. If I can repair it, then, well, it'll probably go in my 2CI case. And if I can't repair it, Sloopy's next. Anyways, Thursday. Sloopy can try to repair it, assuming I don't need spare chips off of it to get my 2CI board working. But anyways, yeah, there we go. It's the 2CI. For a while, this was like the Mac other than the 2FX that people wanted because 25 megahertz, 68030, math coprocessor, 8 SIM sockets, so you could put up to 128 megs of RAM, although I doubt anyone put near that much in it at the time because that would have been really expensive. 3 new bus slots, a PDS slot, onboard RAM, or onboard video through the RAM-based video chip right here. Yeah, it was actually quite the nice computer back in the day. I think the only ones, I want to say the only computer faster than this at around its time of launch. I mean, yeah, granted, Apple did come up with faster computers. I want to say the 2FX would have been your faster option. Yes, I could have scrounged those crystals somewhere too, but I bought new ones because I'm silly. Because that's actually a quite handy value of crystal to have. And I wasn't sure I had something to scavenge them from at the time. I think now I've come to realize that I've got a PC motherboard that I gave up on. But I gave up on it after I ordered those parts, even though it was sitting on my shelf. And I bet I bet it has that crystal, and I could probably steal one from it. Well, assuming I can find it on the board. I say that, and then I realize that maybe this is the one board that actually... Oh, it's got one of those Dallas real-time clock modules on it. So no, the crystal's actually in the clock module. Okay, so that's like the one board that I can't scavenge one off of because it's inside the Dallas module. But yeah, I probably have something somewhere I could steal one off of. Anyways, this is Thursday's live stream. In fact, I'm just going to leave it right there for Thursday. Jeremy just took the ABS module from his van apart, and it had a chip with a V20 on it. Cool. That's pretty cool. I don't know if that necessarily says the age of your van, because They could have actually been using that chip for a while, but yeah, V20. I've got some V20s around here somewhere. I tried to upgrade one of my computers with a V20 once, and well, that's a video that's on the pile of videos I need to make. Spoiler alert, no, it didn't work. Super spoiler alert, super spoiler alert, Joe had to help me out of a bind. But anyways, yeah. So there's the 2CI. Close with a blast from the past on my bench. Totally going to put one of these cards in a actually I probably will put one of these in my Emerson 386 computer. After, of course, last week putting the Trident card in it. After recapping the Trident card to see if the lines in the display went away, which it didn't. Installed the Trident card in there. Like, okay, well, the card works. The lines are an artifact that I can't fix, but at least the card works. In a 386 SX16, you can't really tell how bad the card is because, well, the computer is slow too. At least the card's working. And then, of course, I find the eBay auction where the guy's selling these for $10 a piece. New in box. I mean, the boxes are damaged, but I'm like, okay. Totally going to put a Cirrus Logic 5428 in my Emerson 386. That gives me another one for being a card that I can use for testing computers. And I'm very totally tempted to see if I can take that seller up on their offer to sell me the others he has. Especially if he'll sell them to me for the same price. HPC 16083. Oh, is it like an early system on chip or... That sounds familiar. Looking up this chips Jeremy's telling me about. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, it's a microcontroller with onboard ROM, or some of them have onboard ROM. Does this actually have like a V20? Is this the V20 processor that was in your van's ABS module? I don't see where in the datasheet I just pulled up it says V20. Although it says it's a 16-bit architecture, so I'm interesting. Yeah, it's a system on chip. Oh yeah, 1994 system on chip. Yeah, that's actually... I'm not sure that's necessarily the first system on chip, but that is actually pretty early for one. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole computer on a chip. It's got the processor, it's got a UART, it's got timers and counters and registers and IO and ROM and RAM. Yeah, that's pretty much a whole computer on the chip. And that's actually pretty cool for 94. That would be... I don't know what the first system on chip is, but okay, it's a 20 megahertz V20. Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I don't know if it's the first system on chip, because I think not Moss, but Western Design Center had some 6502s that were almost basically a system on chip. But yeah, those are gonna be some pretty early ones. Like I think the I want to say the Amiga's keyboard controller is, or no, it's maybe not that. There's some controller I ran across in a computer that basically seemed to be like a 6502. It might have been a microcontroller technically, but it could have been a system on chip. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, okay. So your ABS module had two PCBs. One was swimming in brake fluid. The other with the system on chip was safe, though. I take it wasn't supposed to be swimming in brake fluid. Ah, Falcor, welcome. Did your first logic board recap tonight. LC550, not a lot of caps, and you're exhausted. Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah, first recapping can be exhausting. Well, congratulations. Now you're probably addicted and will fix more. So anyways, yep, so there's the preview of the repair for Thursday. It needs just a bit more than a recapping. But yeah, yeah, this needs just a bit more than a recapping. This will be a special one for sure. I don't know if it powers up because I haven't tried because of the missing oscillator. I do hope that the 2CI works with the power supply adapter that I built last week. I do know that the 2VX it doesn't seem to work with. I'm hoping it'll work with the 2CI because the one nice thing is since if I use the ATX power supply, if I can't get the soft power circuit to power the board up because of the damage from leaky caps in this area, I think at least with an ATX power supply I can jumpstart it. Because I can I think I can manage to find a way to have the ATX power supply. I can manually short the power on pins using something other than the soft power circuit on this Mac. And bypassing the soft power circuit entirely and powering this board and hopefully not seeing the smoke. Let's see. I believe I have checked resistances on this board and there's no shorts. And the only reason I did that was to answer a question I had with another board that I was concerned might have a short. And that's how I determined that apparently the 5-volt rail on this design of board has a relatively low resistance. Oh yeah, Jeremy's telling me, I'll just say that the ABS module was dead after 28 years of swimming in brake fluid. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah. So the 2CI board, Thursday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. Can't say that I'll finish it on Thursday, but I'm sure going to give it my 4-hour plus a little bit because I'll probably get peer pressured into it. Live stream attempt to repair it. So we'll see. And yeah, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and call it the live stream now because I do need to be at work earlier than normal in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and call it now. I think I have a relatively successful. I've got cap lists for 2 power supplies. The 1 power supply, I've already got the caps in my Mauser cart because I walked you through how I would select them. The other one, I'll follow the same process to order caps for it. Probably at the same time because that'll be cool. Figured out that I got a power supply that's just probably was built to cost and not worth doing anything with. I've got a power supply that I'll probably dust it, replace the fan, and we'll call it done. And then, well, preview the repair challenge for next week. Be next Thursday. And then you got the preview for this Thursday's repair challenge. So, yeah. So, yep, everyone, have a great rest of your night, afternoon, day, whatever time it is in your neck of the woods. Hope to see you back here Thursday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. And with that, take care and have a great rest of your day. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time, and until then, take care!